after Kyle Busch died yesterday, age 41. Evidently had a problem, a health problem, had been taken to the hospital and died. I think an autopsy is pending, but we're not hearing much out of the uh, Kyle Busch family or out of the racing team about exactly what killed Kyle Busch. So we'll have to wait to find whatever that is. All I know is that NASCAR is losing a real star from their lineup. I mean, this guy had won 234 NASCAR events. So it's really amazing. And had one last weekend, and then went to the hospital yesterday. And he went in the morning, and by the afternoon, he was dead. So there's a lot of questions, and there's going to be questions until they release when they do the autopsy, release the cause of death. People are going to want to know what happened to Kyle Busch. He's supposed to be racing tonight. And well, of course, that's not going to happen. And I'm sure that they're going to have a definite moment of silence this evening for Kyle Busch and his death as it occurred. But it's just such a here's what I think all of us really have a hard time putting together. The Bible is real clear about it, that our lives are like the life of a flower in a field. That we're born, we thrive, we flower, and then we die. And it doesn't. When you think about how long your life is, you know, you know, it's well, my mother would say it's like a popcorn fart. It's that quick, you know. I've the whole mortality thing. Everybody talks about it and everybody thinks about it, but nobody understands it can happen at any moment, and that's what happened to Kyle Busch. Uh, he got a call. You know, on the Christian side, a lot of Christians going to say the Lord called him home, and he's now, from what I understand, he was a believer, and he's now, to be absent in the body is to be present with the Lord. That's what the Bible says. So he's with God now. So I don't know what to say. I don't know what to tell you. Um, I just know that he was doing fine, and then all all of a sudden, he just passed away. That's the way it happens. It's the way life is. You don't know how many days you get, and it can be a short time, it can be a long time, but inevitable. Death is inevitable. Once you're born, you know you're moving towards your death. I mean, that's the bottom line on all of this. You're born to die. That's exactly the way it goes. There's an interesting story today on Fox, and did you used to want on the Discovery Channel? Couple, I don't know. It's been a while now. Maybe 6, 7 years ago, it stopped, but they were following that farming family in Alaska, and like everybody was hooked on it, watching it. You remember that? And the patriarch, the guy who was the father of the family that they were doing the show on, had played guitar around Alaska and performed with different people and everything. But the thing and nobody knew about this until later on in the show, because then she showed up in the show, and he was that was the daddy of Jewel. You know, she's from that family, and there's a story about her today. She is now 51 years old. Have you seen a picture of her? Yeah, yeah. Put your microphone on so people can hear you.
Oh, it's on. Sorry.
Yeah, but I mean, Jewel. If when you look at her, if you think that she's beyond 30, you're better than I am. I would never have thought she was. I didn't think she was 51 years old, to be honest. She doesn't show any age whatsoever, and she's doing all right. Anyway, they're having a big hoop to do right now. I guess there's a picture of her in a bikini, and she really doesn't look like she's a 51-year-old when she's wearing her bikini. In a recent Instagram post, the country singer shared a few bikini photos from her vacation to the Caribbean island of Barbuda. Uh, and the caption on the photo says Barbuda for a few days of sun before more winter snow. You know, she's from Alaska. They see a lot of snow in Alaska. I don't think she lives in Alaska anymore. She goes up and visits her family and takes her grandson up there, or her son, the grandson of her dad, uh, takes him up there to keep contact with his roots up there. It's the first photo in the slideshow is of Jewel smiling at the camera with the wind blowing her hair back as she stood on the beach in a animal print bikini. The ocean waves can be seen crashing onto the shore behind her. A second photo then shows the singer in that same bikini, this time taking a mirror selfie in her hotel room. Other photos in the slideshow feature the food she ate and the picturesque ocean view. If you go, you check out the story. You'll see a few of these bikini pictures. It really is crazy stuff that she is 51 years old. Fans raved over her toned physique, flooded the comment section with compliments for the singer. She's one of those people evidently works out all the time. She evidently goes out and runs all the time. Uh, I mean, you can look at her. She don't have a six pack, but you know that line you get down through your midsection when you're in shape. She's got that, man, and she got that in spades. But one of the statements said, "Fine wine. You look amazing," one fan wrote, while another added, "Are you sure you didn't drink a youth serum? You just keep looking younger." It's amazing. Geez, Miss Benjamin Button. Okay, so what does that mean? Evidently, you didn't see the movie Benjamin Button, which was about a man. I think it was Brad Pitt, if
It
I'm not
was. Yep.
mistaken, that instead of aging as he got older, he got younger as he got older. He looked younger, and he just disappeared at the end of the movie. And I've gone back and watched a few Brad Pitt movies, and I'm getting a lot more respect for him and his acting ability. Not bad. First time I ever saw him was in a movie that had Garofalo as a hitman in it, and um, Arquette was in it. And I'm trying to think. See, Gary Oldman played a part in it, and I'm trying to think. I think it was Slater who played the male lead, and they had really weird outtakes in that movie where he was living his life and Elvis was talking to him
I guess I missed that.
in
I didn't see
in
that one.
there, and it's a great movie. It's really good. In fact, I liked it so much. It's a great action movie, but I liked it so much I actually bought the movie, and I've got it in my collection. It's one of my serious, uh, you know, uh, I don't say I'm redneck. I'm just typical uh, kind of guy that guy things that I like that other guys like, and this was a good movie. It's a great movie, and you'll enjoy it. But it is there's plenty of shoot 'em outs and there's plenty of fights. The fight between Roseanne Arquette and Gandolfini is classic. It really is. She does him in finally
Hmm.
with the top of the toilet. She whacks him on the head, kills him. So you might want to dig that one up to watch. 17 minutes after 7, I'm going to take my break right now. Then we'll be back with more here on the Dave Elswick Show.
America is at a tipping point. To ensure we stay the land of the free and home of the brave, you need to be informed and engaged. That's why we're here. 101.1 The Answer, where Little Rock comes to talk.
Right here in our backyard, sellers trust Purple Wave Auction to move their equipment, from excavators and ag equipment to trucks and specialty trailers. Our no-reserve online auctions help local sellers turn iron into opportunity. You get a dedicated territory manager who knows your operation, your market, and your timeline, backed by nationwide buyer demand, local service, national reach, real results. See why more sellers choose Purple Wave. Visit purplewave.com to get started today.
Are you about to turn 65 and you're confused about Medicare? Hi, it's Doc Washburn. My friend Tammy Chase is a local Medicare enrollment specialist who meets with you in person and makes it simple. Tammy takes the time to understand your needs. She walks you through every option in plain language that's easy to understand. There's no confusion and no pressure, just expert help you can trust. Call my friend Tammy Chase for expert help in making it easy. Tell her Doc sent you. TammyChaseInsurance.com.
Estate planning lawyer and CPA Bob Carlson has been called America's #1 retirement expert. Tens of thousands of American retirees trust his advice, but his latest bombshell sounds almost too good to be true. It's a way to boost Social Security income and collect more on every Social Security check and create a lifetime monthly income stream 100% tax-free. So today, Bob has made it his mission to give retirees and future retirees the full story in a free report. Log on now to retirementwatchreport.com to get yours. This retirement strategy is fully approved by the IRS, even though less than 1% of Americans know enough to use it. Nobel Prize-winning economist and MIT professor Robert Merton predicts this strategy will become one of the key ways to fund retirement in the future. Log on to retirementwatchreport.com to get your free report. That's retirementwatchreport.com. retirementwatchreport.com.
We bring you the biggest news stories of the day. Not to tell you what to think, but to allow you to have the most information so you can make up your mind. 101.1 The Answer, where Little Rock comes to talk. You can watch the show right now. The Dave Elswick Show is streaming live on Facebook. This is 101.1 The Answer.
All right, back with you 20 minutes after 7. It is Friday. That's always a good thing to have, and we stand on the brink of a 3-day weekend. I know that Val and I are both off on Monday, so there'll be a best of Dave Elswick show. Jerry Stewart will have his Memorial Day show we'll be playing that during our remembrance of Memorial Day, which is remembering those who've given their life for their country, keep their country safe and keep it the way it should be. So you want to keep that in mind as well. I forgot to tell you what the name of that movie was, and now I'm looking for it so I can tell you it because it's been out for quite a while. But it's really one of the better action movies that's out there. So let me go back and do one last search here for it. I didn't know that Arquette had been in so many productions on television because they add in if they appear in a show or anything, and she was in a lot. She's been in a lot of different stuff. She's got some pretty good versatility to say the least. So Rosanna Arquette was in this movie, as was Christian Slater and Gandolfini. And the reason I brought it up is because uh, there was a short bit in it with Brad Pitt. He was at the very beginning, and he plays a stoner in the movie, and he's hitting the bong in the scene that he's in. And he's been Brad Pitt's been around a long time.
Oh yeah,
His first movie was Thelma and
Yep.
Louise.
he sure was.
And that of course is one of those iconic movies that everybody says they've seen, although probably 2/3 of the people say they saw it, never saw it.
Ugh. I've seen it
and-
many
and-
times.
Yeah, well, it had a great
Thelma?
what?
Thelma?
Yeah,
Gina Davis was awesome in that.
yeah, and then you had Sarandon,
Mhm.
and she was good in it as well. And Sarandon, I like her acting, but her politics is just
I don't like it.
she's way left.
Hmm.
As far as that goes. In fact, most people in Hollywood skew way to the left. Yeah, they really do. I started watching a movie last night. I hadn't seen it. It came out back in 2013, and it's Blue is the Warmest Color. I don't know if you had ever heard of it. It's a French movie. And I went back and dug up the two women who starred in it, and they had nothing. I mean, nothing good to say about the director. Said the guy was just temperamental and all kinds of stuff. There's a scene in the movie, kind of towards the beginning, where one of the characters sees one of the other characters when they're crossing the street in a crowd. And okay, so you're walking across the street. You're supposed to have seen this other person. It's foreshadowing some things that are going on in the rest of the way in the film. And the director, who could not explain what he was really looking for in the scene, had the two main protagonists reshoot that scene several hundred times. It took him 10 hours. 10 hours. And Leah is the actress. Her first name is Leah. Her last name was Sydox. I forget how they pronounced it. Anyway, she said, we've been doing this scene and shooting it, reshooting it, and reshooting it over and over and over again. And she says, we went by each other in the scene and we both kind of giggled because we've been shooting it for 10 hours. And the director got so ticked off that, those little laptops that they watch to see how the shots go in, Val,
Yeah.
he grabbed it, said, I cannot work under these conditions, and threw it down on the ground and smashed it. And that was their first introduction to the director. And then they admitted that when you make a movie in France, you don't offer your suggestions for a scene. The director tells you what they want. You're expected to deliver what they want. And this 3-hour movie, it took them 5.5 months to shoot it. That's an incredibly long shoot.
Though, it's crazy what people will do for money.
Yeah, well,
If I was being treated badly on a movie set, I'm sorry, I'm walking away.
yeah.
You're not going to make me your, punching bag or whatever. But that's what people do for money.
It won Cannes that year. I remember that, so that's why I watched it. And it's a coming of age film is what it is. One girl's still in high school, the other is like in her last year of college, and they meet up. And uh, do I need to tell you that this is Hollywood? So they fall in love with each other, and by the end of the movie, it all falls apart.
Well, of course it was France.
Yeah, and so anyway, I mean, it was shot well. The dialogue was interesting. Uh, I mean, it's not every movie you watch that somebody brings up and starts talking about Sauterre. I mean, they're standing there talking about philosophy of life and things of that nature. And you're right, it's a French film. That's kind of stuff that the French film are like. Um, I give it a 7. Thought it was okay. I'll never watch it again.
Right.
It's not one of those movies that I
Can't
would,
get your
would sit
time
down
back.
and just keep watching. I mean, look, there's a few films that I come across that no matter where I come across them in the runtime, I stay with the movie. I mean, Christmas Vacation is one of them.
Oh, love it. I watch it every year. It's
Yeah,
one of it's the epic.
I've got it on, I've got it on the DVD as well. It's kind of a family thing. We all get together on Christmas Eve, watch it, and drink eggnog and open a few presents or whatever. But that's one of those movies. If I turn it on, and I'm going to stay with it. And it's Apocalypse Now, another movie that I stick with when I turn on.
Joe Dirt. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, and then there was like the one Hamburger Hill.
Oh yeah.
A lot of people haven't even heard of that movie. If you wanted to watch a movie that really kind of showed the brutality of the Vietnam War, that is the movie to watch. A lot of Vietnam vets, I won't say most, but a lot of Vietnam vets say that movie is a lot closer to the way Vietnam was than Platoon. Platoon was that the American military was corrupt through the whole movie, and Oliver Stone said that it was of his remembrances of Vietnam that he filmed. And if he went through that and didn't turn in some of the people that he was serving with, something wrong with him, because Tom Berenger is in that movie, and he plays a character that is, just despicable, to the Viet Cong and to his fighting men and brothers that just stood beside him. All right, let's get to a break. We got to do that. We come back, a lot of information about what's going on in Minnesota. I'll bring you up to date on all of that. It'll take us at least a half hour to talk about it as we continue on the Dave Elswick Show. It's a Friday. Time for Bill O'Reilly to give us his final opinion of the week.
Bill O'Reilly here, and I'm warming up. Stand by for the O'Reilly Update Morning Edition. But first.
Hey, I'll be straight with you. The government is not going to protect your health. You are. That's why I want to tell you about All Family Pharmacy out of Boca Raton, Florida. They work with licensed doctors and pharmacists to help you get prepared with emergency medications, even custom compounded prescriptions the big chains will not make. So please go to allfamilypharmacy.com/Bill. Use code BILL10 for 10% off your entire order. Tell them O'Reilly sent you. That's allfamilypharmacy.com/Bill, code BILL10. Don't wait. On this Friday, if you have any friends or acquaintances that like communism, all you need to do is point to Cuba. It is an impoverished nation. 90% of the people there cannot really make a living. Government has to hand out ration cards for food, energy, things like that. And this has been going on since 1959. No progress in Cuba, a communist country. So why would anyone want to impose communism anywhere, including America? But we have a growing socialist and communist movement here. It is based on an enormous government giving people who don't have very much free stuff. You've heard it before. That has an attraction for people who do not want to compete in a capitalistic society where you have to earn your way. You have to go to work, perform well, and sometimes do better than your neighbor. You are not sharing the land, as the 1960s philosophy once espoused. Cuba is a disaster. So is communism. Back in a moment. Trapped in a timeshare, fees rising every year while availability shrinks, resorts making exiting nearly impossible. That's why I partner only with Lone Star Transfer. Please visit LoneStarTransfer.com, or you can call 855-551-7066. Tell them Bill sent you today.
That is the Morning O'Reilly Update. More analysis later on.
Want your pets to live longer, healthier lives? Tune in to Pets Who Thrive Radio with Tammy King. Tune in for honest conversations that will help your furry family thrive. Sundays at 2 p.m. on 101.1 FM, The Answer.
This is 101.1 The Answer, where Little Rock comes to talk. Start your morning with a voice you know and trust. Dave Elswick, bringing you the issues that matter to Arkansas, the news behind the headlines, and conversations you won't hear anywhere else. Then in the afternoon, stay informed and fired up with Doc Washburn, breaking down the biggest stories of the day and what they mean for you. And all day long, hear from some of the biggest voices in talk radio. CNN's Scott Jennings, Mike Gallagher, and Larry Elder, bringing you sharp insight, lively debate, and the perspective you've been looking for. News, opinion, insight, and the conversations shaping our community. From Little Rock to the natural state and beyond. This is 101.1 The Answer. 101.1 The Answer, where Little Rock comes to talk. Larry O'Connor explains the dilemma of a politician.
You know, this is always the sort of juxtaposition that elected officials have. Do I do just what I think is best, or do I also do what the people of my state or my district want me to do? Sometimes those are in sync, sometimes they're not. Do you set aside your own personal beliefs, ego, and narcissism, and do what the people that put you there want you to do? I think so.
O'Connor and Company with Larry O'Connor. Weekday mornings at 6, right before Dave Elswick at 7 on 101.1 The Answer. If things don't change, can you imagine America in 20 years? Scary thought, isn't it? The good news is we have the power to take our nation back. Stay right here for all the information you need. 101.1 The Answer. Dave Elswick is the conservative voice of Arkansas, and he's back. 101.1 The Answer.
Okay, so I forgot to tell you that the name of that movie. True Romance is the name of the movie, and it's great. Christian Slater.
I was going to say, I think I've seen that, Christian Slater.
Yeah, it's been out for quite
It's an
some
old
time.
movie, yeah.
Yeah, it's been around. I'm looking here to see what was the year that it came out, and it came out in 1993. Wow. Doesn't seem that long ago, but it was a long time ago.
Yeah.
And so she's Arquette is really good in it. Here's your cast: Christian Slater, Patricia Arquette, Dennis Hopper, Val Kilmer, Gary Oldman, Brad Pitt, Christopher Walken, Bronson Pinot, you'll remember him from a lot of TV they did, Samuel L. Jackson, Michael Rappaport, and that's about it. Oh, and James Gandolfini. I forgot about Gandolfini. He's in it. And anybody else that I think that you should know about? Chris Penn does a small part in it. He was a good actor, and he died of just not keeping himself in shape. Is what happened. Tom Sizemore, another guy, was a good actor, great role player. Died because of his drug abuse that he did for years and years, and he passed away early. But it's got a great cast. It's written well. I forget who directed it, but they did a really good job. I can find that out real fast for you. Let's see what they say here. True Romance, Tony Scott, of course. I mean, you want to see an action movie, find some of Tony Scott's movies, and they're really fun to watch and to take in. So interesting. That's what happens when I start talking about Brad Pitt and I start going back in movies that he did. Of course, Thelma and Louise was his first time on the big screen, but he plays a small part in True Romance, and he's really good at it. Of course, it was during his youth when he was probably the stoner that he was in the movie. It was that he was playing. Anyway, if you have some time over the weekend, I'm going to think that movie might be able to be found on Prime. I'm looking to see if it says where it's being shown at, because that's one of the good things about IMDb. You can go there and look on IMDb, and they'll tell you where or on what platform you'll find the movie. The movie overall with the viewers has about a 7.9 rate, which is considerably above average, and it's above average. I want to tell you, it's a little quirky. Whenever you have Christopher Walken in a movie, it's going to get quirky, and it is. And Dennis Hopper is trying to think, Christian Slater's dad, and you'll watch it. I'm not going to say any more because I don't want to spoil it for you when you watch it. If you like action, you'll like the movie, and there's some talky scenes in it as well. If you're that kind of cinephile, you want to go out. I am going. My wife gets back from Texas Saturday. She'll be landing, and I'll pick her up in the evening over at the airport. She's ready to get home now. She's visited with her daughter. Saw her mother down in Texas, who is in a nursing home. She's 95 years old, and then she's was hanging around her granddaughter Lily for this week and a few days. And as I talked to her, I said, "Have you had enough of Lily now?" And she said, "Yes." I think it's funny. Women love their grandchildren, but they'll tell you, just like I'll tell you, grandchildren are great because when you're ready not to have them around anymore, you can send them home, mom and dad. Let them deal with them because she's 2 years old, so she's in the terrible twos right now. And every time that I talk to Linda on the phone, Lily is screaming in the background. So she's acting out the typical terrible twos right now. There at my daughter's home with her husband. Her husband works down in Texas in the oil field and makes good money, and he's a advisor for a oil company, but he's looking to go now and work for be part of a company instead of being being hired as an independent contractor. Because when you're an independent contractor, and Val knows this because she's done a lot of this, your health insurance and everything, it's on you.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And so whatever you're getting paid, and if you're wanting health insurance, health insurance my son-in-law and my daughter have uh, is it's going to go down once there's a company that's talking to him. He's going to get health insurance with him, and it will save him over $2,000 a month. It's just health insurance is really, really expensive for most people. So, I'm glad that he's got a job that he can afford that. He makes good money. I mean, he's in the six-figure range, high six figures. So, he's an engineer and makes a lot of money doing it. Pays a lot of taxes as well. And he talks to me about that all the time. He knows that he'll find a friendly ear in me when you start talking about how much taxes the government takes. And that's why I look and listen to these people say that the wealthy need to pay their fair share. They've paid their fair share. The wealthy in this country, about the top 5% of the earners, pay about 90% of the taxes in this country. A lot of people that have families, they get so much money back from the government, they really don't pay anything to the government. And so people who are busting their butts and busting their chops and working as hard as they can, they're floating those other people so they can work, but that they can have insurance and all the niceties that they want. All right, I told you we talk about Minnesota. Let me get over to my stories here about Minnesota. I'll bring it up to you here. And there's a lot going on right now. So let's start with story A and move on. A grand jury has now indicted 15 in the Minnesota health care scheme. From what I can tell, these are a lot of the lower level people. They're not the upper level people that was greasing the palms and things of that nature for these people to go in and get the money. And I hope that the FBI follows the food chain. FBI Director Patel yesterday said 15 individuals have been indicted for over $90 million in an alleged massive healthcare fraud scheme there in Minnesota after a sweeping FBI investigation with the Justice Department and our interagency partners. He says these charges involve the two largest Medicaid fraud cases ever charged in this district and first of their kind charges involving 7 additional Medicaid programs. As alleged, the defendants defrauded Minnesota public health care resources for tens of millions of dollars, targeting programs such as housing, stabilization, child care services, Medicaid programs, individualized home supports, and more. In one case, defendants even developed a scheme worth over $40 million to target the early intensive developmental and behavioral intervention. That's the EIDBI, which is an autism healthcare program paying kickbacks to parents who fraudulently use autism centers to diagnose children with autism, regardless of medical necessity, and billing for services not actually provided. According to the Daily Signal, it is a crisis in Minnesota, claimed Colin McDonald, Assistant Attorney General for Fraud Enforcement, in a DOJ press conference. A culture of fraud has taken root. McDonald pledged to continue to work at the DOJ until every fraudster in Minnesota is charged. He said, quote, "This is not the end of the beginning of our work in Minnesota. This is the beginning of our work in Minnesota." McDonald then addressed the fraudsters directly. He said, quote, "We will not rest until every fraudster knows that the cost of stealing from the American people is far higher than any scheme is worth." Secondary article that's out there that Minnesota fraud leader was sentenced to 41 years in prison. And, I think you should get life in prison when you're stealing the way these guys were. Amy Bach ran the Feeding Our Future program. Now, this was a program that was supposed to feed poor young people whose family couldn't, afford to put food on the table. They bilked the government for $24.3 million, money that they claimed was feeding tens of thousands of children a day. The Washington Times reported, quote, that this is a vortex of fraud, and you were at the epicenter. Okay, again, what do they mean by being at the vortex? And a vortex would be a whirlpool out in a lake or whatever. So it was sucking in everything it could from the government program, and they were spending money on themselves. And I said 24.3 million. I was wrong. I put a decimal point there. There is none. $243 million they made off of lying about feeding indigent youth. Judge Nancy Brassel told Bach at the sentencing, according to the Minnesota Star Tribune, while Bach is white, most of those involved in the scam were connected to the Somali immigrant community. The scam drew attention to a larger universe of fraud in Minnesota, much of it also tied to the Somali community. Now, these people were part of this scheme in any way, shape, or form. They should be deported back to Somalia. Let them be back in Somalia. The scam drew attention about it because it was so big, $243 million. Amy Curtis over at Town Hall. Town Hall is owned by Salem Radio, just for full disclosure. Said just the other day, Fox spoke to Fox News and implicated high-ranking Minnesota Democrats, including Ilhan Omar, Tim Walz, and Attorney General Keith Ellison, saying they knew about the fraud and they did nothing. So that's something that's another part of the investigation they're going to have to follow. The owner of the Minneapolis Quality Learning Center was charged with $4.6 million in fraud. They went on to say it's going to be interesting to see how much accountability the nation will get to see from all of this blue state fraud before Election Day. Federal prosecutors charged the owner of Quality Learning Center with defrauding Michigan's Child Care Assistance Program of $4.6 million, though through phantom enrollments. That means the people didn't exist, and they said they were enrolled in the school, and forged attendance records. Fox News reported that Fatima Mohammed was charged Wednesday with wire fraud and conspiracy to defraud the U.S. government. Between October 2022 and December 2025, she allegedly submitted over 13,000 fraudulent claims to CCAP, totaling approximately $4.6 million. Prosecutors state the claims were fraudulent because she falsely certified that she had collected mandatory co-payments from families, which is a material requirement for federal reimbursement. And then David Strom says this is an incompetence. It's not indifference. The state of Minnesota, as of many states, is part of an organized crime ring, stealing tens of billions or more from taxpayers every year. How interested in the Prada media? Our local TV stations are finally picking this story up, seeing ratings gold, although they have yet to point the finger at the governor and the attorney general as part of the scam. So that's the latest coming from Minnesota, and it's multiple millions of dollars, probably going to crack the $1 billion ceiling before it's all said and done. And as I see these stories come down, I'll make sure that I bring you up to date on it. And the Somali uh, uh, area of people that came from Somalia to the United States is ground zero. That is where it's all taking place. 7:52, 8 minutes until 8. It's the Dave Elswick Show on a Friday, 1011 FM, The Answer.
When someone nearby searches for what you offer, are they finding you or your competitor? Salem Media owns local search. Call 501-404-6535 and take your turf back. That's 501-404-6535 to own the neighborhood.
What if you could take 101.1 The Answer with you everywhere? You can. Download the 101.1 The Answer app and stay connected to the voices you trust, live and on demand. Wake up with Dave Elswick. Stay sharp with Doc Washburn. And hear from national voices like Chris DeGaulle, Scott Jennings, Hugh Hewitt, Larry Elder, and Mike Gallagher. Breaking news, bold opinions, local insight, national perspective, all in one place, all in your pocket, at work, in the car, on the go. If it matters to Arkansas and America, you'll hear it on 101.1 The Answer. Plus, stream us live anywhere. Catch up on podcasts and never miss a moment. Search 101.1 The Answer in your app store and download it today. 101.1 The Answer, where Little Rock comes to talk.
Whether retirement's just around the corner or already here, it's common to be overwhelmed. That's where Total Wealth with David Lucas can help. Utilizing their signature Thrive planning process, they'll work together with you to identify and resolve your concerns, allowing you to fully pursue your passions and enjoy life. Because a successful retirement isn't just how much you save, it's the quality of life you live. Schedule a free evaluation now at TotalWealth.com. While you're at the website, download the free guide to Social Security. It'll help answer a lot of your questions. Go to TotalWealth.com or call 501-382-8800. 501-382-8800. One more time, go to TotalWealth.com or call 501-382-8800. That's 501-382-8800. 501-382-8800. Go to TotalWealth.com.
Investment advisory services offered through Lucas Total Wealth, an Arkansas registered investment advisor. Arkansas Insurance License number 161527443.
There's a real battle going on, not only for our future, but that of our children and grandchildren. How do we ensure they have it better than we do? One way is to keep listening to us. We're your information source in the battle. 101.1, The Answer. Now, back to the Dave Elswick Show. 101.1, The Answer.
Back with you here on the Dave Elswick Show, and let's go back to a different article. And the Iranian leadership overseas seems to have now coalesced on one issue, and that's control of the Strait of Hormuz. Well, it's not theirs. That's not theirs. And because if we're going to look at that it should belong to somebody, it would be that it should belong to the UAE, to be honest. So anyway, that's something that has to be taken a look at. If they're allowed to do so, you would mark a territorial gain for them from the War Institute for the Study of War. And they reported Iranian officials have coalesced around demands to formalize Iranian control over the Strait of Hormuz transit, in contrast to their apparent division over the nuclear file. Iran's demands over the Strait of Hormuz demonstrate that Iranian officials believe they won the war. I gotta shake my head. Because formalizing Iranian control over the Straits of Hormuz is a territorial claim on the sovereign territory of another country. Iran released a map of a Persian Gulf Strait Authority, defined a maritime zone on May 20th. The PGSAs, that is the Persian Gulf Strait Authority, New map appears to expand Iran's claim management zone beyond the area Iran previously depicted back on May the 4th. And the new PGSA defined zone runs from Mubarak in Iran to southern Fujairah in the UAE. In the east, and from the end of Jessam Island in Iran to at Kuwait in the UAE in the west. This change lays explicit claim to control over the territorial waters of the UAE and Oman. That's not going to fly. It's not even going to float. It's going to float as well as the Iranian Navy, which isn't very good. All their ships are, they turned them into submarines. So the U.S., this is from Hugh Hewitt, he posted this yesterday, saying that U.S. must create a demilitarized zone along the Strait of Hormuz. Do we have any guests at 8 o'clock, 8:05? We do, okay. So I'll pick this up later in the show about this whole thing about what does Iran have the right to say it's theirs and what they're saying is theirs that they have nothing to do with. We'll talk about all of that when we come back for the news. We get guests coming up. We're going to talk about is this the prison board?
Yes.
All right.
Scott Perkins and with Trekking Arkansas.
Okay, so they're going to come in and talk about the prison board, and we'll see what's going on with that. 2 minutes, make it a minute and a half before the news. We'll get back with you after the news here on the Dave Elswick Show.
Find us at 1011fmtheanswer.com. Download our apps, stream us 24/7, or watch us at snc.tv. KDXE, Cabot Village, Little Rock.
Breaking news this hour from Town Hall. Amit Thomason. Secretary of State Rubio says there's been slight progress in talks with Iran amid uncertainty about a potential deal or renewed conflict. Rubio is in Sweden now for a NATO meeting where the alliance is discussing its role in the Strait of Hormuz, among other matters. Tensions persist as Iran has closed the strait and the U.S. is blockading Iranian ports. President Trump is sending an additional 5,000 American troops to Poland.
His announcement came just weeks after he had ordered the same number of troops to be pulled out of Europe. NATO officials were meeting in Helsingborg, Sweden, when they reacted to the news, including Swedish Foreign Minister Maria Malmö Stenergard.
Well, it is confusing, indeed, and not always easy to navigate.
NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte seemed pleased with the decision, and so too did Polish Foreign Minister Radosław Sikorski.
I want to thank the President and everybody who contributed to these decisions.
Trump announced the deployment on Truth Social, citing strong ties with Polish President Karol Nawrocki. I'm Lawrence Brooks.
Another Trump project proposed for the nation's capital has cleared another hurdle.
President Trump says there are
59 of them in the world.
He's talking about
a triumphal arc. It's usually done for victories in war and things.
But Washington, D.C.?
We're the only important and major city that doesn't have one.
But the U.S. Commission of Fine Arts has now given final approval to the design.
Correspondent Ben Thomas says another federal agency would have to approve it before the project could go ahead. Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton touting the president's endorsement as he heads into the final days of his Republican primary runoff against Senator John Cornyn. On Wall Street, ahead of this morning's opening bell, Dow futures are up 356 points. NASDAQ futures 117 points higher. More on these stories, townhall.com.
Health insurance rates are surging in America, leaving millions without affordable options. If you're sick of having paychecks eaten up by healthcare costs or dealing with mega corporations, then listen to this. Christians don't need to waste money on a broken system. That's why I want to tell you about Christian Healthcare Ministries. It's an alternative to traditional health insurance at half the cost. With CHM, fellow believers contribute monthly to help pay each other's medical bills. There's no enrollment period, so you can join anytime. And you aren't restricted to provider networks, so you choose the doctors and hospitals you want. It's that simple. CHM is not insurance. It's a ministry that puts faith into action. Feel the difference of financial support and biblical care from fellow believers. Join CHM today by visiting chministries.org/wellness. That's chministries.org/wellness.
Some unionized Samsung workers in South Korea are voting on a proposed pay deal that would head off a threatened strike. Samsung's chip business and its profits have soared thanks to the AI boom.
The deal between the union and Samsung was only reached hours before the union's deadline. As part of the deal, Samsung will set aside around 10% of its profit as bonuses for its employees. Each worker in the company's memory chip division is expected to bring home hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of stocks this year. The union's leaders celebrated the deal, but other employees in the company who make TVs and phones will miss out on the windfall.
That's BBC's Jay Kwan in Seoul. Israel says it has released and deported hundreds of activists who took part in a flotilla trying to breach Israel's naval blockade of Gaza. The Israeli Foreign Ministry says that all foreign activists have now been deported. News and analysis at townhall.com. An NFL MVP and Super Bowl champ quarterback is re-signed to a big money deal.
Reigning NFL Most Valuable Player Matthew Stafford has agreed to a one-year contract extension through the 2027 season with the Los Angeles Rams. ESPN reported the deal is worth $55 million. The deal indicates that the 38-year-old quarterback is at least strongly thinking about staying with the Rams past the upcoming season. The Rams surprised the league by drafting Alabama quarterback Ty Simpson with the 13th overall pick last month. I'm Gethin Coolball.
Forecasters expect a developing El Nino could dampen the upcoming Atlantic hurricane season while not completely wiping out the chance of violent weather. NOAA is forecasting a below-average season, a season with fewer named storms and hurricanes. More on these stories, townhall.com.
You know your business inside and out, but does your community? With Salem Media's podcast and video production services, you can share your expertise and connect with customers on their commute or wherever they listen. We handle production and distribution, so your content reaches the right ears on multiple podcast platforms. Stop letting competitors own the conversation. Call Salem Media today and ask about our local business podcast packages. Call Chris at 210-526-3631. 210-526-3631.
All right, back with you on the Dave Elswick Show. I got a couple of emails during the break, literally going crazy talking about the amount of graft going on in Minnesota and why nobody has been put in jail. One woman has. She's still 41 million. She's going to jail for 41 years. Personally, I think she should go for the rest of her life. But 41 years is what she got without any chance at parole. And I believe that whole no chance at parole when I see it, because a lot of times they'll say, yeah, can't get parole. And then along the way, a governor or somebody will say, well, what they did wasn't that bad, and then they'll let them out. All right, let's move along and let's talk about something. We've talked about this before on the air, and that's dealing with the prison board in Arkansas. And we got a couple of guests here. I'll let them introduce themselves to you. Let's start with the ladies first.
Thank you, Dave. My name is Janie Ginocchio, and I'm one of the co-founders and lead investigator for Tracking Arkansas.
Okay, and you, sir?
And I'm Scott Perkins, another co-founder of Tracking Arkansas.
Okay, and see, you're like the guy that I was just talking about in Minnesota. He identified. He said something ain't right here, and and started following the money trail. If you want to know what's going on, follow the money trail always. I'm not in news any longer, but that's if it was political corruption, you got to start off with the money, because it's all about power and it's all about money always.
One of our guiding principles is to follow the money. That's how
yeah,
we
you got to
track news stories. Says it's not their money; it's the public money.
Yeah, I mean, think about these folks in Minnesota. They're running a food program for disadvantaged youth. These are kids that, if they don't get breakfast or lunch from one of these programs, they don't eat anything, and because their parents don't take the responsibility of raising kids and they lay it on the state. So the bottom line is that this company that was running this food outreach took the government thus far. They have the receipts, and they're going to be taking them to court here within the next few weeks, and $234 million dollars. And I wonder how much of that they'll claw back. Probably not a lot.
Wow, that's an amazing number.
Yeah, it is. Especially all of us that were doing it right, we just got done paying our taxes for this year. And when you were paying your taxes last year, some of that money was going right up to Minnesota into these people's pockets. And I think Ilhan, what's her last name? The congresswoman from Minnesota up there in the what? Yeah, Omar. Yeah, that she's the Somali area is her area of authority, her constituency, and they've gotten 15 people thus far, and there's a whole lot more in line. I just want them to get it to the top. That means I want them to go after Ellison, the Attorney General of Minnesota. I think he's up to his eyeballs, and I think Omar is as well. But we're not going to talk about that. We're going to talk about Arkansas here. So bring me up to date. What all are you reporting on? We'll start off with you.
Okay, so in regards to the Board of Corrections, there have been a couple of legal advancements or developments in the last couple of weeks. And so there are two separate cases that are happening that are in play. So the first is back in 2023, the legislature passed two laws that basically took the board's authority to hire, fire, and supervise the secretary of the Department of Corrections, and then a couple of the major department heads, I think for community corrections and for the parole board, and moved them under the authority and supervisory control of the secretary of the Department of Corrections. And that is actually a violation of Amendment 33 of our state constitution, which maintains that boards like the Board of Corrections, the UA Board of Trustees, are supposed to be completely independent of the governor's influence. And so by shifting that they're not to have their authority taken away from them, like these two laws did. So the board sued the governor and said that these laws are unconstitutional.
Okay.
And so the judge, Circuit Judge Patricia James, ruled in summary judgment that they were correct, that those laws were unconstitutional, and that what they wanted, that the control of the secretary and those department heads would remain under the Board of Corrections. The governor appealed that decision. And then there was in the meantime, what the Board of Corrections had done was they went and hired an outside lawyer to represent them in that lawsuit. And so the Attorney General sued the board, claiming that they violated the State Freedom of Information Act when they did that. That they had the two board members, Benny Magnus, who was the chair at the time, and Lee Watson, who is currently still on the board, that they had an illegal meeting, and that they didn't produce the documents that the Attorney General wanted regarding the hiring of this attorney. At the time, Circuit Judge Tim Fox dismissed it on a procedural ground because they said that the state didn't follow his order to work it out with the Board of Corrections. And so that got appealed to the Supreme Court as well. In the meantime, in 2025, at the end of the year, the governor appointed 3 new people to the Board of Corrections.
Mm-hmm.
And one of them was a former staffer, Jamie Barker, who is now a lobbyist for Gilmore Davis Barker Group. And they represent a lot of prison industry clients. And then she already had another lobbyist on the board that she had appointed, Grant Hodges, who works for JCD, former legislator, who works for JCD Consulting, and they represent the County Judges Association of Arkansas, who is a huge proponent of the prison, the Franklin County mega prison. And then she appointed 2 others, Nathan Lee, who's a Deputy Secretary of State, and then Boyce Hamlet, who was a former special investigator for the AG's office. And she appointed him as chair of the Post-Prison Transfer Board, which used to be the parole board. And that automatically put him on the Board of Corrections. With those appointments, she now had a 4-3 majority on the board. And so what they did as soon as they got appointed and seated was they fired the outside counsel. And then the Attorney General's office came in and gave them 2 legal settlements to settle these cases. And basically the first settlement offer was for the board to say, even though we won in court, those 2 laws that you passed that took away our power, those are actually constitutional, and we're okay with that. The second settlement was that Lee Watson and Benny Magnus violated FOIA, and that they were guilty, and that the board was guilty of the FOIA violations.
The bottom line: who isn't guilty of FOIA? As far as
truth,
political
right
in this state go.
But the problem here was that Watson and Magnus never had the chance to defend themselves in court, and so they voted 4-3 to accept these
settlement.
accept this element. And one of the things that we discovered was that Boyce Hamlet, who is essentially, you would consider him a tie-breaking vote there. His wife is a senior attorney general in the Attorney General's office,
Mm-hmm.
which is a conflict of interest. And that conflict of interest was never disclosed by Hamlet before any of these votes or by the AG's office. And so he should have recused himself from the votes. Had he done that, it would have been a 3-3 split on the vote, and those measures would have failed. So the outside counsel wouldn't have been fired, and the board would not have taken those settlements. And so that's a huge issue that we've just recently uncovered and reported on.
All right. So now you said that they had appealed
Mm-hmm.
and I guess they were. Did the appeal go the way of the governor?
So that's what's happened recently in the last couple of days. Is the first thing is that, in the past couple of weeks, May 4th, they had a hearing in Judge Fox's court. So the original appeal of the dismissal of the FOIA case went to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court said no. You've got they dismissed that and said or reversed it and said no. You've got to go back and hear the case. And in the meantime, they had this settlement. And the Attorney General asked Judge Fox to dismiss the case. They went and said, hey, we've gotten this settlement. We want to dismiss the case now. And Judge Fox said, I don't think so, because Watson and Magnus came in and said, hey, we would like to intervene. We would like to have our day in court to defend ourselves. And so Judge Fox told the AG's office, you either need to tear up this settlement or fight for it. And so he said, I want a response to Watson and Magnus's request to, get involved in this case by Monday, May 18th, which was this Monday. And so last Friday at 4:30, the AG's office filed an emergency petition with the Supreme Court to ask them to order Judge Fox to just dismiss the case. And they've, as far as yesterday afternoon, they hadn't done anything with that. So the AG was forced to file a response in circuit court over the FOIA case. And now Judge Fox, as of yesterday afternoon, had not done anything with that. So that's still in play. He could rule that he's not going to accept the settlement, that he's not going to dismiss the case, and that he's going to allow those two folks to be able to intervene and have their day in court. So that's one thing that's just kind of hanging out there right now. The other thing that happened was yesterday on the appeal for the board suing the governor over the constitutionality of those two laws. The Supreme Court came in and said, now that there's been a settlement, what we're going to do is we're going to send this case back to the Circuit Judge Patricia James, and we want her to consider the settlement and consider dismissing the case. So there's a possibility that she might do that. There's a possibility she may not. So that is up in the air as well. So there's really a lot of uncertainty about the continued independence of the board and the power and authority that the board will be able to retain. And, we and a lot of other folks see this as a direct assault on Amendment 33 of our Constitution by the governor and the Attorney General's office.
So you explain to me, I'll move over to your other partner here. Explain to me, what's the bottom line here? All of this is going on, but why is it going on?
It's going on because Amendment 33 in the Constitution has obviously presented itself as a boulder for the governor's plan and what she would like to get done in prison and criminal justice and the rest of the platform. But the assault on Amendment 33, bottom line is the independence boards are there for a reason. The Arkansas people are the reason Amendment 33 is in our Constitution for this exact situation. And so if you want to boil it down, I believe that Amendment 33 is what, if you support the Constitution, you should be saying is the bottom line here.
Okay. So what's the heartburn that the governor has with this part of our Constitution?
What part doesn't she have a problem with? Would be my I think, a more accurate question. The problem is that she can't continue to gather control in the executive, which is imbalance of power, and in our system, and separation of powers. And the governor's office also needs to understand that they'll leave behind them precedent and case law, and the Constitution's the law in Arkansas, not a platform to try to get back to DC.
Why did it, and maybe you can talk to this or maybe you can't, I'm going to ask you to do a little history for me. Why did the founding fathers and mothers of Arkansas decide that we needed boards to run, like the prisons and things of that nature?
So they wanted our system of government, both on the federal and the state level, and to a certain extent, the local level, have these independent commissions and boards, because I don't want to speak authoritatively on this, but from what I can gather in my studies of history and public policy is that you need a certain level of independence to have a check on specific, very core functions of government. So prisons, education, and some of the other ones that I can't think of. Game and Fish is another one that's constitutionally independent. And so the people have decided that those were worthy of being free of the influence of the executive branch. So, for example, Amendment 33 came into being in 1942 because the governor at the time, and I believe it was Homer Adkins, completely fired the entire board of the UA Board of Trustees because he wanted to get rid of the president, William Fulbright, because he was
Out of political spite.
Yes, he was a political enemy of the governor. And so the existing board didn't want to fire him. And so he got rid of the board, put in loyalists that would fire the president. And in reaction, the people of the state of Arkansas said, no.
And put it on the ballot.
Yes.
This came from the people as Amendment 33.
Right. And so this was passed by the people, that the Board of Corrections and the boards of higher education institutions will be independent of the governor. So the governor may appoint, but they don't have the power to remove or take away the powers of those boards. And so the only way that a board member can be removed is for cause. And so there is a process within the amendment for that. And so the governor has to bring a case for cause against this member, and then the majority of the board will vote after a hearing on whether or not to expel that member or retain them. If they're expelled, they can appeal to circuit court and then ultimately to the state Supreme Court. So there's a due process provision built in there. And that's something that's of concern, particularly to member Lee Watson in this FOIA case, because if he is found to have violated FOIA, that could be used as a reason to remove him for cause from the board. And then what happens is that the governor can appoint a new board member. She doesn't have to go through the Senate confirmation process. As outlined in Amendment 33, it could just be a majority vote of the existing board whether or not to accept that person. So then she could get rid of another dissenter and put in another loyalist, and then the board has a majority of 5-2, and then you don't have to worry about close votes at all.
Mm-hmm.
And this really started over a fight over Joe Profuri, who she brought in to be the new secretary of the Department of Corrections. And for various factors, he was increasing costs unnecessarily.
According to Lee Watson's letter, it was derailment of board decisions, which included the $75 million to expansion in Calico Rock, which was the most direct impact on more bed space for state prison.
Right. And there were also safety issues as well. An inmate died while in custody as a result of staffing decisions that he had made. And so the board decided to fire him, and the governor did not like that. That was her person. And so she actually brought him in to be a senior advisor in her office after that firing. But ultimately, that was the reason why they passed those acts, was so that she could take control over that position away from the board and put it under her office.
So from what I'm hearing, then we've got to wait to see what the court says, who, has standing in this, and who and why they want to do it. And that's a process that's going to take time, a lot of time usually. I have problems that here in Arkansas, there's so many boards. All right. I really do. We've got a legislative branch, a executive branch, and a judicial branch that should be able to take care of the things that come up, and we shouldn't have to depend upon unelected people to govern the people of Arkansas. I don't like the EPA. I don't like the Department of Education. I don't like a lot of the things nationally as well, because all I think that it does is it gives a politician an out to say, well, the EPA said we had to do it. We've given them the power to do it, so I can't do anything against it. And that sounds like to me you're throwing away your constituents' power over these people.
In an ideal situation where the lanes of the executive and the legislative bodies were respected, I couldn't agree with that comment more. However, in Arkansas, the executive is in a gather mode of power that touches.
Well, they've been doing that since Asa was governor. He was trying to make the governorship more and more powerful the whole time he was in.
That's correct.
And don't think that the legislature didn't notice that, because and of course we know that they got the supermajority, the Republicans do, and the governor was a Republican at that time. They did not agree on this at all, of what he was trying to do.
No, I remember that. I remember that fight in the legislature. They were not on the same page, for sure.
No, not close. Not close.
This legislature is a little bit more on the same page, but we also have the advent of PAC contributions and campaign finance in the state that have really taken shape since then, since ACE's administration.
All right, let's take a break, and then we'll come back and we'll pick it up when we come back and go to the news, and then we'll take a break and come back after the news. It's a complex problem right now here on the Dave Elswick Show. It may take another constitutional amendment to correct it. 8:26, Dave Elswick Show. We'll be back with more in just a moment.
The news never stops, and neither does your schedule. That's why we're here, keeping you up to date with all the biggest stories of the day. We're 101.1, The Answer, where Little Rock comes to talk.
When your car is making a strange noise, no matter what it is, you can't just pretend it's not happening.
That's an interesting sound.
It's like your mental health. If you're struggling and feeling overwhelmed, it's important to do something about it. It can be as simple as talking to someone in your community, or just taking a deep, calming breath when you need it. Nice. For mental health resources, check out loveyourmindtoday.org. At loveyourmindtoday.org, you'll find information that may help you get through a tough time. Things like tips for dealing with stress, how to navigate difficulties like financial worries, anger, substance use, and more. You can also find real stories of how people navigated their own mental health challenges. Because once you start to address the problem, you can go so much further. Visit loveyourmindtoday.org. That's loveyourmindtoday.org. Brought to you by the Huntsman Mental Health Institute and the Ad Council.
In his new movie, The Dragon's Prophecy, Dinesh D'Souza brings the new Middle East into focus with a message of perseverance, faith, and a shared global destiny.
Could the fate of the world, of humanity itself, be somehow tied to this place?
At long last, we have peace in the Middle East.
Israel and Christians are coming together in a way they have never been before since the book of Acts.
But is this the end of Hamas and radical Islam? What does the Bible say?
We have to become fighters in the spirit for God. We don't accept what the enemy wants to do with our culture. We don't accept what he wants to do with the nation. If we keep fighting, we win.
Powerful, prophetic, a must-see movie based on Jonathan Cahn's international bestseller, The Dragon's Prophecy, combines history and scripture with faith, justice, and renewal. The Dragon's Prophecy, a new film by Dinesh D'Souza, now available on Amazon, YouTube, and iTunes. America is at a tipping point. To ensure we stay the land of the free and home of the brave, you need to be informed and engaged. That's why we're here. 101.1 The Answer, where Little Rock comes to talk. The Dave Elswick Show is back. 101.1 The Answer.
All right, after the news, which is coming up here in about 40 seconds, we will tackle this problem some more of what we've been hearing from our guests today. And don't expect that, we're going to solve it by the end of the show, because it's not going to happen. I don't know how long the suit and countersuit is going to take here in the state of Arkansas, but there's a lot of moving parts to this right now. And when it comes down to FOIA, politicians hate FOIA. It's just the way it is. All right, 5 seconds. Let's get to the news, and when we come back, we'll talk further here on the Dave Elswick Show.
With SRN News, I'm Rich Thomason in Washington. Senate Republicans have left Washington for their Memorial Day break without voting on a roughly $70 billion bill to fund immigration enforcement. They're leaving town amid Republican disagreement over a $1.8 billion fund would compensate those who claim persecution by the Biden Justice Department. President Trump says the U.S. will send an additional 5,000 troops to Poland. The move comes as 5,000 American troops are pulled out of Germany. Secretary of State Marco Rubio in Sweden, where he'll address a NATO foreign ministers meeting. President Trump has blasted the alliance for not lending a hand in the Iran war. Looks like a soggy Memorial Day weekend is in store across the east and the southeast. Mostly sunny and dry conditions expected across much of the west and the Midwest as well. More details at srnnews.com.
Ready for a bathroom upgrade that won't disrupt your life? Jacuzzi Bath Remodel is here to help. Take the stress out of renovations with quick, professional service from the name America trusts. Affordable, stunning selection of tubs and showers, each designed with style, safety, and your budget in mind. With customizable features like grab bars and seats, your new bath or shower will meet your entire family's needs.
I absolutely love my new bathroom. It's very hard to believe that they get it done in one day. Jacuzzi really outdid themselves.
Right now, we're waiving all installation costs, plus offering no interest and no payments for up to 1 year. Call now to schedule your free design consultation and quote. Call 800-661-3398. That's 800-661-3398. 800-661-3398. With purchase and installation, financing through third-party lenders, subject to credit approval. No interest and no payments if paid in full within 12 months. Interest charged from purchase date if not paid in full. Not all will qualify. Call dealer for detail.
This is Carol Platt-Liebau for townhall.com. Justice Clarence Thomas recently became the second longest-serving justice in U.S. history, and that's something to celebrate. He is exceptional, both as a jurist and as a man. Raised in poverty in a wooden shack in the segregated South, he credits his grandfather for shaping his character. From that foundation, he's articulated a powerful and increasingly influential originalist vision of the Constitution, grounded in the natural law principles of our Declaration of Independence. His character is remarkable. Justice Thomas is beloved by those who know him. He is renowned for his kindness, treating his clerks like family, knowing the names of court staff, and helping others with no expectation of return. Justice Thomas is quite simply a national treasure. He is a blessing to America, and it's right that we celebrate this outstanding jurist and extraordinary man.
President Trump has triggered a $200 billion tech disruption, and Wall Street is asleep at the switch. This $200 billion investment in chip technology could make today's artificial intelligence chips obsolete. Technology that will make today's AI data centers a thing of the past, like IBM's old mainframes. While most investors are focused on old-fashioned AI, there are three companies quietly building a trillion-dollar triangle that could transform every tech sector on Earth. These three companies are gearing up to develop and manufacture supercomputers the size of a dinner plate. Institutions like Vanguard, BlackRock, and State Street are pouring more than $200 billion into this AI revolution. Investment guru George Gilder has been predicting tech revolutions for more than 40 years, including the iPhone, Netflix, and Amazon. Now he's got his finger on three companies whose technology will change tech forever. Log on to TrillionDollarTriangle.com to find out which three companies are working on what could be the biggest tech disruption since the internet. TrillionDollarTriangle.com. That's TrillionDollarTriangle.com.
The conservative voice of Arkansas. The Dave Elswick Show on 101.1. The Answer.
All right, back with you. We've got a couple folks here that are talking about what's going on with the prison commission. And let me just tell you right up front, we're not going to solve this during the time that they're on my show today. This is really a complex legal case that's going on. Is it going to take decisions by the Supreme Court, and even those are going to be challenged in court? So this is going to take a couple of years to unknot it.
Yeah, potentially a couple of years, certainly, especially with the court's makeup. And we've already seen some patterns of recusal with connections to the AG. And so it'll be very interesting for what the court from the Supreme Court levels will really be able to do after recusals and appointments, and they get a full court. But right now, I believe the limbo between the Supreme Court and the lower courts is where we're at in the law fairing of it.
Now, I know that Fox is involved with it. I mean, I'll be honest right out front. I don't like Tim Fox, never have liked Tim Fox. He's as political as they come, and he's as liberal as they come. It's the other thing. Mm-hmm. And, I'm not expecting whatever decision he makes, I think will be however he thinks he can cause damage to the governor. I really do believe that. I mean, Tim Fox is involved in what's going on with the Secretary of State. And, are we going to have a Secretary of State that the people elected, or aren't we? And we don't know yet. I talked to both sides of this one, and and nobody likes him, Tim Fox. Just to be honest, he has a hard time making a decision. He really does. And then he'll say, "I want a decision on this, and this is how you'll tell me your decision," which tells me, well, you don't want their decision. Then you want your decision put forth. So anyway, it's a mess. The way things are.
It is a mess. It's theater, a lot of theater, and a lot of
a lot of kabuki theater. In fact, it really is. So, how do you think that? Let's take you about 5 years down the road here. How do you think this is going to play out?
That's a very good question. This thing has been going on since 2023. We're in 2026 now,
3 years
and it's
going.
still not resolved. It really will come down to the state Supreme Court. And the problem is that Justice Barbara Webb, for example, she uses the Gilmore Group for her campaign consultants, and she's paid them at least $180,000 in the past couple of years in that.
So she may have to recuse herself.
Yes.
Okay.
And so there may be other justices. Nicholas Brawny has recused himself from other AG-related cases. Cody Highland recused himself from the Board of Corrections case against the governor. And so you've got a lot of conflicted Supreme Court justices. And so how does that shake out? Because then the governor's appointment ability comes into that. And so, of course, she's going to appoint people that are going to be friendly to her and potentially, hopefully, rule her way in her calculus. So these are going to be decisions that define how our government works for generations to come. And I can't tell you because there's too many moving pieces at this point of where it's going to land.
The bottom line, when you look at this going before the Supreme Court, you may not have a Supreme Court that's willing to listen because they all have vested interests with a lot of. Here's the problem that we've come into now. Republicans had very little power in this state until 2010, and then it started swinging.
For the first time in 138 years.
Yeah, and it did. It swung dramatically towards the Republicans. Well, these are all the Republicans that were working together to make that swing happen. So they all know each other. They've all worked together. How do these judges then say, I can sit on the court and make an unbiased opinion?
I think the wrinkle, goes back to what we've seen and documented is a fragment and a fracture in the state GOP, and it was brought on by Sarah Huckabee Sanders filing for governor office and derailing or delaying Tim Griffin's already run that was in the works, and then so you've got the loyalists on both sides and the rest of the fraction that I think have been exposed a little bit because of the supermajority.
There's a lot of factions. I can attest to that. All right, I can attest to that.
We get a lot of calls about platform adherence from our readers. Our news tips that our subscribers send to us are wonderfully insightful, but it gives us an insight really into the inside workings of both sides of the aisle.
Well, Val and I see the fight going on as it's been occurring. I've stepped back from. I consider myself a conservative and a Republican second. And they've done some stuff on the Republican side here in the recent past that I think is absolutely wrong. They're breaking their own rules and it's got to stop. But it's causing a lot of bad blood, and that ends up causing, some bad legislation because of it.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, those fractures really become slap fights in terms of policy, and so then good policies don't get passed because people are trying to score political points and
the politics of policy.
Yes, and then you've got other ones that are passing because we're in power and we're going to show our strength, and they may be reactionary and not well enough thought out to be for the greater good.
All right, 8:40. So as far as this goes, I mean, when I look at the Republican Party and the fractures that have occurred there, It's as if they believe the people who are making the decisions at this time should make all the decisions. And the grassroots of the Republican Party is now, they got a monster on their hands now. It's starting to push back against them. And it's going to be who stays in control. Where is Calico Rock now? The governor seems to have stepped back from putting the prison there.
Putting the prison in Franklin County. The Calico Rock $75 million derailment from Porphyry has been derailed and spent on the Franklin County Prison Project. I believe it went to Veneer and the other contractors on the site selection and I believe the engineering plan. But so that's the status on Calico Rock, which by the way would have added 350 to 500 state beds if that would have went through. The official project on the Franklin County prison proposal it's on hold due to support in the legislature.
Well, it's not going to pass. I mean, right now it's not going to pass. There's just been too much that has been written about it and that people have talked about. And I kind of like the idea of building 3 smaller prisons, get the same amount of beds, and spread the quote wealth around the whole state.
And I think Board of Corrections member Lee Watson's letter that he submitted to legislators, and I believe even talked about in testimony in a committee meeting hearing, stated exactly that, to look at it from an expansion standpoint, not a new prison standpoint.
And not even that, but how about like addressing recidivism instead of just prisons, like in those 3 separate facilities?
Ooh, we're going to need a whole other show.
Yeah, I know.
That is exactly a question
that
gets to the heart of it.
Yeah.
And it really is a simple fix for the recidivism because the state invested millions of dollars in a consultant to actually look at the data to see why people were returning to prison, and 72% of them are coming back for technical parole violations. So that means they're not paying their fines, fees, restitutions.
Not additional charges.
Yeah, not additional charges. So they're not reoffending.
But that's job security for the prisons, right? The private prisons.
Exactly.
Right.
And so if we could have more parole officers to supervise those folks, because what they showed was the people coming out of probation, only 24% of them were recidivating under the state's definition, but 50% of the people coming out of prison are.
So we'll let you out as long as you pay your fines.
Yes.
Gosh,
yes.
that's ridiculous.
And we know that they're already disadvantaged coming out in terms of finding a job because they've got a criminal record and
have been
And
detained.
some of these fees and fines are thousands and thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars, depending on what happened. And so we're instead of addressing that root cause, we are just wanting to turn them back into prison and pay more money to house them in prison when they could be out working, paying off those fines and fees, contributing to society. But
that doesn't benefit the private prisons.
It's not a part of their business model.
That's right. I mean, you have to understand, just like a hospital is a business model, so isn't a prison. And when you don't have people coming back, you don't get paid.
That is exactly right.
I mean, I have a problem with the private prison situation, but also, why aren't we training these people in skills? Because we're literally lacking so many people in our society that are skilled labor
In several trades.
Yes, and we can't even get people to bring their business here because we don't have enough skilled labor. So why are we not training these people in like HVAC, air conditioning repair, plumbing, things of that nature, if they're not violent criminals?
They're not potential customers for prison pack.
Right.
Efforts.
But that's crazy because they should be. And they could create a campus where they're taking care of it for like a year and they learn how to do all of these things. And they're still in prison, but they're learning how to not be in prison and learning how to have a job so they don't get out and go back to doing the same stupid stuff they were doing. And they can actually get a job. That's a problem.
It is a problem. They have to be able to have a job. And side note, Arkansas, is in the late 70s. Our entire prison system was deemed unconstitutional. And that's a caveat. I think a lot of people don't miss in the history notes.
If you don't understand what he just said, watch the movie Brubaker. All right. That's what it's all about.
Right.
That's what it's all about.
That and the fact that we incarcerate more citizens per capita than arguably any other entity on the globe. And I think that's also a note that gets a little sidetracked into, that might not be a list that we want to be number one on. Certainly if we're having proper policy.
Well, in 2026, the Brennan Center for Justice reported a shortage of 9,500 correctional officers and 3,000 medical professionals in Arkansas, limiting its ability to maintain safe legal operations. That's telling right there.
Right. So we can't even fill the existing slots for the existing facilities.
Right.
So why would we want to put a 3,000 bed mega prison on top of a mountain with no water, no adequate roads? And
no workforce,
not wanted.
No.
No, and the impact of that is terrible for local law enforcement. It does anything but cannibalize the talent pool in local law enforcement. And so, your local municipalities, your county deputies would basically be that workforce that fills in that prison, leaving a huge gap in the local level.
I don't think a lot of people realize that Colt Shelby's who led that whole thing against, would we be here right now? Would she be, holding back now on that if he hadn't have brought in all the things that he brought forward? And actually she made her own opponent. That's what's crazy in the governor's race. Like, she made her own opponent in him.
Right, through the Franklin County pursuit.
Yeah.
No doubt.
I mean, she had to be petty and try to delay that election. And that, I think, has cost her a lot more than they calculated.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. By the way, we were impacted in that as well. District 70 in the House seat is where we vote from, and we had to sue. We had to sue to vote in our primary. So that's another caveat I'd like to drop there.
Is that Stubblefield's old district?
Stubblefield's in District 26 in the Senate.
Okay.
And we're in House District 70 in North Little Rock.
That was Carlton Wing when he
Retired.
resigned.
Vacancy was how we got caught up into the delay of the special election.
All right, let's take a break. Final break for this hour, and then final segment for this hour coming up after the break.
The Danielle Gill Podcast, now available on the Salem Podcast Network.
Throughout Trump's first administration, the Democrats cried endlessly about foreign collusion and the usurpation of democracy through government abuse and corruption. All the while, they were doing just that. They were colluding with foreign governments, usurp democracy through government abuse, corruption, all of the things.
Subscribe for free today to the Danielle Gill Podcast on Spotify, Apple, YouTube, or at SalemPodcastNetwork.com.
Real talent is defined by what people can do, not where they learn to do it. So by stopping at the education section of a resume, you might throw away the perfect hire. You might miss someone who has valuable skills to offer to help your business thrive right now and in the future. Because the truth is this: Skills First Hiring helps you see talent others miss, like more than 70 million stars, skilled through alternative routes. When you let their story unfold, you gain a competitive advantage, because hiring managers who start with skills are 60% more likely to find a successful hire. See the real person, complete. See what others miss. Hire skills first. Learn why it's a competitive advantage at tearthepaperceiling.org. Brought to you by Opportunity at Work and the Ad Council.
This is 101.1, The Answer, where Little Rock comes to talk. Start your morning with a voice you know and trust. Dave Elswick, bringing you the issues that matter to Arkansas, the news behind the headlines, and conversations you won't hear anywhere else. Then in the afternoon, stay informed and fired up with Doc Washburn, breaking down the biggest stories of the day and what they mean for you. And all day long, hear from some of the biggest voices in talk radio. CNN's Scott Jennings, Mike Gallagher, and Larry Elder, bringing you sharp insight, lively debate, and the perspective you've been looking for. News, opinion, insight, and the conversations shaping our community. From Little Rock to the natural state and beyond. This is 101.1, The Answer. 101.1, The Answer, where Little Rock comes to talk. The Dave Elswick Show continues now. 101.1, The Answer.
All right, we got 10 minutes remaining here. And so let's come back and let me just ask the two of you to give your thoughts about where we're at and how long is it going to take us to see this move forward.
Okay, I will take that one. We are in muddy waters. Is the bottom line of all of the moving parts that are in this storyline as we are right now. But the truth, as far as the time element, is that it will take years to have this probably settled.
There'll probably be a new governor in office.
Just like if the Fauquier County prison was started, it would not be completed before the term of the governor would be here, nor would it be an immediate reaction to our prison overcrowding. This too will linger, in my opinion.
No, I think you're right. I think there will be some movement in the next few weeks in terms of the initial decisions of the circuit judges. But again, anything that they rule on is going to automatically be appealed.
Yeah.
And so then, how long the Supreme Court takes in adjudicating that or sending, and of course they can always decide to send it back to the circuit court again if they wanted to. So it really is going to be a ping pong game between the different levels of the courts from here on out.
And I think the bottom line for Arkansans that is certainly where I try to come from is that the point is to not look the other way. The point is to stay engaged, and the point is that you need to watch closely and do what you can for your resources to understand what's really going on, because the end game of this is if we stop paying attention, nothing gets fixed and nothing gets righted that might be wronged. But that's my bottom line: is follow the money and follow the stories, stay engaged,
and go to the ballot box and vote accordingly.
Now, this has legs, as we like to say in the business. This story has legs. It does keep moving forward, though at a snail's pace. And it's just, look, I've been here now for 26 years. And I can tell you, this was going on. They were talking about some of this stuff back when I got here in 2000.
Mm-hmm.
It's been going on for a long time.
Persistent.
Well, yeah. Well, Arkansas brought a lot of this on themselves by having such a corrupt penal division here in the state. I mean, that's history. That's not me just saying that bad boys, I mean, that they were doing stuff that we did a story was it last week we talked about the prison blood scandal?
Mm.
I mean, this stuff's been going on for quite some time. They've been using the prisoners here in Arkansas, and I'm a big law and order guy, as you guys know. But I don't like to watch them pass laws that the reason they're passing laws is because they wanted to have free labor.
Right.
And that was what was going on here in the Arkansas prison. I want to call it colonies, but then I'd be pushing us down to Australia. But anyway, bottom line is this is going to take a while. I appreciate that you all came in. Just
thank you for having us.
Kind of explain what's going on. And I told them during the last break, I said, people are going to walk away from this hour saying, well, that's as clear as mud.
Mm-hmm.
And you brought that right up. I mean, it is. There are so many different players. There are so many different things that have already happened that I can't tell you how this is going to finish out. I probably will be taking a dirt nap by the time they finish up deciding this.
And I would just like to note, Dave, that we did invite Attorney General Tim Griffin on but he has not answered us, so which is odd.
Well, I don't think he's a big fan of ours, so that might be the.
Yeah, well,
but
I didn't invite him today. I mean, not with y'all, but to talk about things that are going on, and he never answered me. Normally he does.
He's got a lot going on. He'll probably follow up.
Yeah, what was it that Biden's press secretary used to say? She didn't say we'll get back to you on that. She had a way of saying we'll get back to you in.
Yeah, they usually tell us no public records exist in that situation.
Oh, well, when we asked the governor to come on, she said she's not available. And I was like, I didn't give you a time or a date. Well, she's not available.
Generally
I'm like,
unavailable.
okay, well, that tells us something.
What do you think about the fact that she will attend or not attend the debate in Eureka Springs?
Did she say yet?
I haven't. No, there's no official statement. So it'd be interesting.
I know Colt's coming on next Friday.
Colt will be there apparently.
Yeah, no, he will be there.
Well, we all know politics. He's got everything to gain. The governor has everything to lose. So, I understand why she might not take part in it.
Yes.
I mean, I can understand it as far
Certainly.
as that's concerned. But anyway, I think that she's made some serious missteps. She's made enemies that she didn't need to make along the way. And there's a lot of healing needs to happen within the Republican Party.
I believe that is one of the truest statements I've heard recently.
Oh, it's the truth. I mean, look, you all know me well enough that since I've been here, I've done nothing more than preach republicanism to this state. But to be honest, I'm embarrassed by some of the things they've done in the last couple of years. I really.
Well, and I appreciate your candor, your candor on that, because that's the exact conversation that's going to get to the bottom of the platform.
Yeah, I agree, and that's the key. We voted on the platform,
right?
So why aren't you opposing the platform? That's a mantra from this show all the time. We talk about it. But I want to thank you guys. I want to thank you for coming in.
Thank you.
You're welcome to come on back anytime. Just let Val know if you get something new that you want to bring.
Yeah, no, we look forward to it.
Let us know. We'll bring you in. Because we're on every platform now. So if people aren't listening on the radio, they're watching it on some other platform. What was it? We had over 100,000 hits on the show.
Yeah, we're on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Rumble, all those.
Yeah, in the last 7 weeks.
Nice. They were very job well done.
And you can people aren't aware of it, but you share it with everybody, and you can watch it on demand after the show. If you missed the show, you want to watch it, you can go back and watch it on Dave's Facebook page and my Facebook page.
We give everybody the opportunity to know what's going on. That's my goal.
Hey, and we don't have it. We are working on putting some advertising. So if you're interested in advertising on our podcast, give us a call. You can call us at 501-401-1011, and we can see about putting your video ad on our podcast.
That's true. Absolutely. All right, let's take a break for the news. Then Kenny Wallace is coming up at 9:00.
Kenny's here.
Awesome.
Okay, so we'll see Kenny here in the studio when we get back. Thanks so much for
Thank you.
coming by.
you.
All right, let's take a break and then we'll be back.
In a world of noise, truth cuts through. This is 101.1, The Answer, where Little Rock comes to talk. KDXE, Kamek Village, Little Rock.
Breaking news this hour from Town Hall. I'm Rich Thomason. The head of the World Health Organization says the Ebola outbreak in Congo is spreading rapidly and poses a very high risk within that country. The UN Health Agency has revised its assessment of the risk inside Congo from high to very high. The risk remains high for a regional spread, but low at global levels. President Trump says the U.S. will be sending an additional 5,000 troops to Poland. The move comes as 5,000 American troops are withdrawn from Germany. Secretary of State Rubio is talking about U.S.-Cuba policy and what might come next.
Trump administration officials have previously alluded to the possibility of military action against Cuba, but Marco Rubio's latest remarks will take on added weight after the murder charges leveled against Raul Castro. Casting doubt on a diplomatic outcome, Mr. Rubio said the Trump administration was both very serious and very focused on changing the Cuban regime. His comments follow a buildup of U.S. military might in the region, with the USS Nimitz aircraft carrier and 3 escort warships arriving in the Caribbean Sea in recent days.
And that's the BBC's Joel Gunter in Washington. Secretary of State Rubio's in Sweden now to address NATO foreign ministers meeting there. President Trump has blasted the alliance for not lending a hand in the Iran war. There's also a good deal of uncertainty about the future U.S. role in the NATO alliance. Democratic National Committee Chair Ken Martin has released a study. It's critical of the party's performance in the 2024 campaign. Among other things, a so-called autopsy cites a persistent inability or unwillingness to listen to all voters. Looks like a soggy holiday weekend in store across the east and the southeast, mostly sunny and dry across a good part of the west and the Midwest. NASCAR icon Kyle Busch has died. He was 41. More on these stories at townhall.com.
Hi, I'm Chuck McDowell, the timeshare cancellation guy and founder of Wesley Financial Group, and I want to set the record straight. I am not an attorney. I've never wanted to be an attorney, and the truth is I really don't even like attorneys. If I sound like an attorney, I apologize. But what I've learned in my 15 years in the timeshare cancellation business is you don't need to be an attorney to get folks out of their timeshare. After 15 years and over 50,000 cancellations, I can tell you with confidence, we know how to get you out of your timeshare. Call us today and we'll send you our timeshare exit guide absolutely free with all your options for cancellation. Attorneys, this was meant to be funny, so please don't sue me, especially my friend Kenneth from Black River Falls, Wisconsin.
Call now for your free timeshare exit info kit. 800-926-5959. That's 800-926-5959. 800-926-5959.
A top UN court sides with workers when it comes to the right to strike.
The International Court of Justice was asked in 2023 by the International Labour Organization to settle an internal dispute over whether one of the UN agency's conventions gives workers the right to strike. Now the UN's top court has issued a landmark advisory opinion that says the right to strike is protected by a cornerstone labour treaty. Advisory opinions aren't legally binding, but carry significant weight. The decision could have a worldwide impact on labour regulation by enshrining the right to strike in labour standards and international trade agreements. I'm Charles Villatesma.
The official overseeing the U.S. brokered Gaza ceasefire is urging the UN Security Council to use every means at its disposal to press Hamas to disarm, warning that every act of violence in the Palestinian territory risks unraveling the agreement. News and analysis, townhall.com. The NASCAR world, that includes fans and fellow drivers alike, are mourning the passing of 41-year-old Kyle Busch. The legendary NASCAR driver died just hours after being hospitalized with a severe illness.
Other drivers have been reacting with shock on social media. Busch is a two-time Cup Series champion who won more races than anyone across NASCAR's 3 national series. He'd reportedly been struggling with a sinus cold and on May 10th radioed his crew at Watkins Glen to request a doctor meet him after the race. He went on to win the Truck Series at Dover Speedway on May 15th. His family, Richard Childress Racing, and NASCAR issued a joint statement on his death, saying our entire NASCAR family is heartbroken by the loss. I'm Jennifer King.
Wall Street is open higher this morning. Right now, the Dow is up 329 points. The Nasdaq trading 153 points higher, and the S&P 500 index better by 43. More on these stories, townhall.com.
You know your business inside and out, but does your community? With Salem Media's podcast and video production services, you can share your expertise and connect with customers on their commute or wherever they listen. We handle production and distribution, so your content reaches the right ears on multiple podcast platforms. Stop letting competitors own the conversation. Call Salem Media today and ask about our local business podcast packages. Call Chris at 210-526-3631. 210-526-3631.
All right, we are in the 9 o'clock hour now. This morning show has been moving right along. And I know we had our guests in here for the whole hour talking about the prison board. And we've got, judges ruling and then being, those rulings are, there people are saying, no, that's not right. I'm going to take it up to the circuit or whatever. So all of the, as I like to say, the infrastructure is being devised right now to see what the final ending is going to be about this whole thing about the board. If I had my way, if I were the king of the world, like from Wizard of Oz, the bottom line is that we wouldn't have boards like this, because I don't think that they represent the voters. They represent maybe somebody who put them on the board, but they don't necessarily represent the board. That's what I got against the Department of Energy, the Department of Education, EPA, and all the rest. I don't think that a part of the government, and I'll just pick on the EPA here for a few moments, should be able to say, here's the law that you have to follow for doing X, Y, or Z here in the nation. Look, I didn't vote. Who made you king? I mean, that's how I feel about it. And this is where our elected officials should come in. But see, they get to do it this way. They can say, well, yeah, I don't like that law either, but the EPA said we got to do it, so now we got to do it. That's not a republic democracy, my friends. That is not what that is. And we need to get back to making politicians who we elect vote on all of this stuff so we know where the politicians stand on all of this. Back in 2010, I was standing in front of the Capitol and I was talking to all of the folks that were part of the Tea Party that had decided they were going to run for an office here in the state. Mm-hmm. And after it was all said and done, and here's what bottom line, what I told them is that I'm behind you all to make changes. But if what you do is you change to not be for your constituents, I'll be talking about you next. All right. That was kind of the way I phrased everything. And we had, just thinking, that's where I met Senator, help me out here, Kenny.
Tom Cotton?
No, state senator, who wears his faith on his sleeve.
Jason Rapert.
All right, I became a big backer of Jason Rapert because he was, and Jason and I would get upset dealing about money because I didn't think he was conservative enough as far as when it came to money. But that's where I met after the meeting on the front of the Capitol. That's where I met Kenny Wallace, and he was out selling shirts. And what was it? Something about socialism. What was it?
It was actually abort socialism.
There it is, abort socialism.
Yeah, I didn't have one of those.
We're still fighting that good fight.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I have a Charlie Kirk shirt on now.
Yeah, I like it. I like it a lot. And, Kenny and I have been friends. I've tried to raise money for what he does because I want him to have some better equipment And I mean, he gets the word out. Don't
Kenny-
get me wrong.
He was one of the only ones like broadcasting all of the House meetings at the Capitol before they had it.
Yeah, before they did it.
I
That's how I got
Exactly right.
started.
Yeah, Kenny.
Yeah, it was the fight against in-state tuition for illegals, which oddly enough was done by
Mike
then
Huckabee.
Governor Mike Huckabee and Joyce Elliott.
Yeah, she carried the water for it.
Yep, and they kind of joined forces to push that in the state of Arkansas.
And it lost.
Yeah, we.
Didn't she remind you of Karen Bass?
Yeah, well,
Miss Elliott, when I see her. Yeah.
Yeah.
But again, it was a Republican then governor that was also pushing for that.
Yes, it was.
And that's kind
Gee,
of
somebody's dad.
yeah, and exactly, and that's kind of part of the problem is we're in the situation now because one of the things we should have done when the Republican Party is something that Charlie Kirk did. It was kick out the consultant class that have been running things with the Republican Party. One of the things Charlie Kirk did was kick out Ronna McDaniel, who was Mitt Romney's niece, I believe, and she was the head of RNC.
Oh, yeah.
And Charlie Kirk made a massive campaign saying, do not support the Republican Party until this lady and her consultant types are kicked out. And that's part of the reason why Trump won the last election, why we had a red wave, at least in most of the USA, is because they cleaned house with the RNC. Unfortunately, that did not happen in Arkansas. And I believe during that last election, overall, the Arkansas Republicans actually lost a seat. And since then, we've had all kinds of other drama, basically an infighting over the Franklin County prison you were talking about before. Well, the Republican Party of Arkansas spent close to, I think, $1 million in various shady organizations like New Generation and others to try to kick out, I think, 2 state senators and tried to keep one, Blake Johnson, in office. And they abandoned that District 70 race and abandoned it to the Democrats. And Chase Duggar, I think, was the campaign manager for that guy, Bo Renshaw, who was running for that seat. And he was basically abandoned because Sarah Huckabee Sanders and Chris Caldwell and Chase Duggar and the powers that be that are running the Republican Party care more about keeping conservatives out of power than letting Democrats win.
Well, it's they were trying to keep conservatives out. That's real. I mean, principled conservatives. And we lost one here a few months back in Stubblefield. And what do you know about the guy that's going to be running to fill his position?
From what I understand, he is opposed to the Franklin County prison as far as he claimed. Whether he actually does that, that's another story. But
yeah,
so far,
you'll be voting on it during the next session. There's no doubt about that. That's going to be coming up and be voted on, and then come up again if it doesn't pass and be voted on again.
Exactly. But I'm pretty sure because of what else happened regarding the other 2 races and I think some other state races, it's pretty obvious that prison, a Republican who votes that prison is going to face some kind of challenge later on during any next election. And so based on that, he's probably going to be a no vote on, at least on that thing. Now, whatever else is going to go on, that's a whole nother story. Because Gary Stubblefield was pretty conservative on a whole host of things.
Yeah. Gary was a good friend of mine, and he was I'll tell you, here's what he was. He was a principled person, and that's what I liked about him. If he told me he was going to vote for something, he voted for something or against it. Either yays or nays. Do you think that we'll get to the point now? I mean, you've been doing the state committee meetings for a long time, and now they broadcast them themselves. Do you think they'll ever start doing what you and I both wanted them to do, and not be able to do voice votes in the committees, that they're going to have to cast a vote?
No, I think they're going to try to hide that keep that as long as they can, as well as the what's another tactic they do? What was this Stewart? Who was that guy that got up and left regarding the what was it? It was the vote several sessions ago to end these special elections And they did the vote, and then the guy got up and left the Sturch Lurch, where they do the roll call the vote, and then he got up and left.
Oh, I got a phone call I got to take. That's amazing.
There's all kinds of little cowardly tricks that you say the legislature, but again, it's really the powers that be, the consultant types that need to be kicked out of the Republican Party that get them to do this, that try to hide their vote. One is the voice vote. And nobody takes a roll call, so you can't tell who actually voted on what.
Because Kenny has seen the same thing I've seen at times. You go to the committee meetings and they'll do a voice vote. Now, the voice vote, who's going to win depends on who the chairman is. Because the chairman supposedly is listening to the ayes and the nays, and he listens. If he hears more for aye, then he's supposed to give it to them. If he hears more nays, he's supposed to give them to them. I've been there when they've taken a vote and it's very obvious. He'll say the ayes have it, and it was the nays that definitely had the votes. Or, he said the nays to say the ayes have it, and bottom line, it was just the opposite, because that's at the chairman's discretion.
Yep. And
that needs to be changed.
And then there needs to be an automatic, roll call, and just so that we can say, okay, who was actually a yes and who was a no, so that what's going on. And it's not just we can actually
they hide all that
people
stuff.
That can know exactly who voted on what.
A lot of that is hid. So when I heard that Val had you coming in, Kenny, I was excited to be able to get to see you again, and he's doing new things now. When we haven't had him on since he's got his new gig that he's doing in the whole 9 yards. So, things going well. Plus, you're married now. You get married over the last 2 years, and he wasn't married when I knew him the best. I mean,
he was married to his job.
He was running around. That's what he was doing. He was running around and trying to do the best he could to keep people informed.
Yep. And one of the things I got involved in years ago was the fight against some of these crypto mining facilities. They had been set up. Well, one was set up in, I think, Harrison, and the group of people organized by Secure Arkansas and others said, no, we don't want this for various reasons, the noise, the water usage, the energy usage. And they got together and they managed to put enough pressure on, I think, the planning commission and the local leaders there to say no. And they said no on that. And then there was another fight and one in Valonia, which is kind of a similar issue. And so those two at least got shut down. There's a few of those that are up. But now when I saw this data center thing, and I saw the announcement for that, and then I looked at what it was, I'm like, oh, this is even worse. This is like a bigger energy wasting, backroom deal.
And it's on steroids.
Yeah, exactly. And it's by the same people that tried to sneak in some of these these crypto mining facilities, some of these green energy projects like the solar farms and the windmill farms. That's the way they're done in. And I said, no, this is just absolutely something we need to fight against. And I really do hope that at least enough people can get angry enough at their local leaders who have sold them down the river yet again to stand up and do something to fight against these facilities.
Well, you are known, as I am known, that you never made a tax that you liked. And you and I both have fought against specially elective tax increases. Now, we don't have to worry about that as much as we used to, but still they look for ways to get around doing it on a regular election day.
Yes, what they've done now is they've limited it to, I think, the primary in November, but it's for any year. So people will have an election, people will be like, oh, it's not an election year, and they won't notice that there's another millage tax being pushed through by, some superintendent, which is basically a $250,000 taxpayer funded salesman for the next millage tax. And it's the same thing. They'll let the school rot. They'll let the roof fall apart while they astroturf the new football field, and then say, "Oh no, we need to tax to help the children." And fortunately, more and more people are getting away from the public school system altogether. I wish Colt Shelby would figure that out, but more and more people are saying, no, the public education system, it was never designed to create new Americans. It was designed to create socialist workers. It's been infested with all kinds of LGBTQ stuff, indoctrination of all kinds. And it's the education system has been failing for decades, and people are, getting their kids out, rightfully so. But yeah, and then you get these local cities that will waste money on pet projects and then turn around and say, "Oh, we need a military property tax or sales tax to fix the roads." It's like, no, you should have fixed it before.
Yeah, let's go back to one that I got to take a break here in a moment, so we'll cover this real quickly. And that was North Little Rock and the huge tax that they passed. And they're going to revamp all the schools and everything.
Mm-hmm.
You remember that?
Yeah.
And you and I fought against it valiantly. I think we were kind of Don Quixote tilting in windmills on that one because everybody was against us on that. But the bottom line, they did not spend all that money that they've been getting in. None of it has gone to repair the facilities that they said was going to be repaired. They didn't do it. They have not done it yet.
Yep. Yeah, and they're probably not going to. They're probably going to have to raise another tax eventually.
Yeah. See, we can look at you here on the stream and say, "Told you." Okay, we warned you what was coming. 9:22. Let's get a break in, and then we'll come back and talk Kenny Wallace some more here on the Dave Elswick Show. I want to talk to you about this white supremacist group that is here in Arkansas, and how they're trying to get people to move into their part of Arkansas, that you can't be a white woman married to a black guy, and you can't be Jewish. My God, if you're both of them, you're really in trouble. It's 9:22, and it's the Dave Elswick Show here at 101 The Answer.
Not to tell you what to think, but to allow you to have the most information so you can make up your mind. 101.1 The Answer, where Little Rock comes to talk. If things don't change, can you imagine America in 20 years? Scary thought, isn't it? The good news is we have the power to take our nation back. Stay right here for all the information you need. 101.1 The Answer.
The price of gold is surging to new highs. It's already topped $5,000 an ounce. The only question is, how much money will you make when gold hits $6,000 an ounce? Investors like you have made small fortunes off the run-up in precious metals, and not just with gold stocks or ETFs. Many have taken advantage of a little-known gold investment officially released by the U.S. government. Now you can too, when you get our free special report from veteran trader and investor Jim Woods. It's called Gold Wealth Boosters. This new report outlines amazing gold investments that have returned 12 to 26 times more than investing in gold bullion itself. Given the uncertainty in world markets, the investments outlined in Jim Woods' Gold Wealth Boosters report are crucial in 2026, and it's free. To get your free Gold Wealth Boosters report, log on to EagleGoldReport.com. EagleGoldReport.com. That's EagleGoldReport.com.
In his new movie, The Dragon's Prophecy, Dinesh D'Souza brings the new Middle East into focus with a message of perseverance, faith, and a shared global destiny.
Could the fate of the world, of humanity itself, be somehow tied to this place?
At long last, we have peace in the Middle East. Israel and Christians are coming together in a way they have never been before since the book of Acts.
But is this the end of Hamas and radical Islam? What does the Bible say?
We have to become fighters in the spirit for God. We don't accept what the enemy wants to do with our culture. We don't accept what he wants to do with the nation. If we keep fighting we win.
Powerful, prophetic, a must-see movie based on Jonathan Cahn's international bestseller. The Dragon's Prophecy combines history and scripture with faith, justice, and renewal. The Dragon's Prophecy, a new film by Dinesh D'Souza. Now available on Amazon, YouTube, and iTunes. You can watch the show right now. The Dave Elswick Show is streaming live on Facebook. This is 101.1, The Answer.
All right, we got 4 minutes up until the news comes here on the bottom of the hour. Kenny Wallace is here. So, Kenny, what are you working on particularly at this time? What are some of the things that you're
Well,
trying
I
to
have a
get
Rumble
aware
account
of?
called Just the Right Angle where I talk about occasionally some political issues. It's I have a non-political job, but every once in a while I will come on there. I will go on to Rumble, which is an alternative to YouTube, and I talk about various issues and kind of get a perspective that you may not see in the media. One thing I was going to talk about is some of these data centers, because I know some people, and I think a few on this show have come on and said that, these are just kind of the new economy, and some people are afraid because it's something new. Well, no, we actually have seen what these mass data centers can do and what they will do eventually. There's one in the Lake Tahoe area, which is a very nice place.
Oh, yeah.
They are going to be about 50,000 people are going to lose electricity because of the data center there. Georgia Power has been taking people's property. There's a lady there named Ainsley Gardner on TikTok who has been going around finding people who's had their property taken because of that, over the $17 billion data center in that location. The Utah data center in Box Elder County, where they had a massive protest. That's where the planning commission yelled at the citizens and then had to go into another room to do a yes vote. It's called the Stratos Project. Part of it's done by the U.S. military. It's going to be the size of 2,000 Walmarts, use 9 gigawatts of electricity, and put out as much heat as 23 atomic bombs every day. And it's in the Hansel Valley area. And then another one we've seen is in Loudoun County, is exploding with a jaw-dropping 20% massive spike in deadly cancers, leukemia and brain tumors since 2005. And so we're seeing the effects of these massive data center places. And so it's not like we're scared of some new technology. We already know what's happening. And we also know what happens when a government gets too much information. It uses it against its own people. We know that because of our friends across the pond over there in England, where they have been notorious for having a mass surveillance system.
No, yeah, they got cameras everywhere.
And yet, despite all that, you have all rampant amounts of crime. You have, children being kidnapped on a mass industrial scale, thousands of them, underage, forced into human trafficking. You've had a recent incident where a young man, I think his name was Nowak, I think he was going to college, and he was stabbed by some Muslim immigrant who shouldn't have been there. And the police actually handcuffed the stab victim, letting him die. And that's, what good is more information? What good is it to have, 50, 100 more cameras and 50 more computers for processing it if that's the kind of leadership you're going to have? It doesn't do any good. It does just more harm to we the people. And so I've kind of been, telling those kind of stories that you should have heard on your local news, but you won't. And I've been telling some of the good news about, some of the victories. And there was a place called Festus, Missouri. They voted out every city. Yes, they voted out every single city council member because they had approved a data center. So they had an election and they managed to kick them out.
And that's what we have to do.
Yep. And you have to, and not just vote out people, you need to make the local organizations that sold you out suffer. The Association of Counties, the Municipal League, the Economic Development Center, these shady organizations that never really have been a supporter of you. You need to make them suffer as well.
All right. Keep your thought.
Mm-hmm.
I raised my hand. All right. Take a break. Here's the news.
With SRN News, I'm Rich Thomason in Washington. President Trump says past U.S. presidents have considered actively intervening in Cuba, but, in Mr. Trump's words, looks like I'll be the one that does it. Secretary of State Rubio says the Trump administration seeks to resolve differences with Cuba peacefully, but he doubts the U.S. can reach a diplomatic resolution with the island's communist government. And Secretary Rubio is in Sweden now for a NATO foreign ministers meeting. The president has criticized the alliance for not lending a hand in the Iran war. There's also much uncertainty about the future role the U.S. will play in the NATO alliance. It is a lengthy prison sentence for a Minnesota woman, the center of a massive fraud scandal that ripped off taxpayers to the tune of hundreds of millions of dollars. On Wall Street, the Dow is up close to 300 points. NASDAQ ahead 66. This is SRN News.
Hi, I'm Chuck McDowell, the timeshare cancellation guy and founder of Wesley Financial Group. And I want to set the record straight. I am not an attorney. I've never wanted to be an attorney. And the truth is, I really don't even like attorneys. If I sound like an attorney, I'll apologize. But what I've learned in my 15 years in the timeshare cancellation business is you don't need to be an attorney to get folks out of their timeshare. After 15 years and over 50,000 cancellations, I can tell you with confidence, we know how to get you out of your timeshare. Call us today and we'll send you our timeshare exit guide absolutely free with all your options for cancellation. Attorneys, this was meant to be funny, so please don't sue me, especially my friend Kenneth from Black River Falls, Wisconsin.
Call now for your free timeshare exit info kit. 800-926-5959. That's 800-926-5959. 800-926-5959.
Looking for heavy equipment but don't know where to buy? Purple Wave Auction has you covered. Always online and always no reserve. It's your destination for construction or ag equipment ready to work. We even sell semis, trailers, and fleet equipment for your operation. Best part? It's free to join. Head to purplewave.com. That's purplewave.com. Sign up for a free account and start bidding today. Purple Wave Auction, the easiest and most straightforward way to buy and sell equipment.
This is 101.1, The Answer, where Little Rock comes to talk. Start your morning with a voice you know and trust. Dave Elswick, bringing you the issues that matter to Arkansas, the news behind the headlines, and conversations you won't hear anywhere else. Then in the afternoon, stay informed and fired up with Doc Washburn, breaking down the biggest stories of the day and what they mean for you. And all day long, hear from some of the biggest voices in talk radio. CNN's Scott Jennings, Mike Gallagher, and Larry Elder, bringing you sharp insight, lively debate, and the perspective you've been looking for. News, opinion, insight, and the conversations shaping our community. From Little Rock to the Natural State and beyond. This is 101.1, The Answer. 101.1, The Answer, where Little Rock comes to talk. Mike Gallagher sees interesting behavior from the left.
They're so furious that the High Court in Virginia ruled against their illegal redistricting scheme that they want to lower the mandatory retirement age to 54 or younger for members of the Virginia Supreme Court. They're nuts.
The Mike Gallagher Show, weeknights at 11 on 101.1, The Answer. Dave Elswick is the conservative voice of Arkansas, and he's back. 101.1, The Answer.
All right, let's continue. We've got about 25 minutes left with Kenny, and I could have Kenny on for 3 hours. We could just sit here and talk. To be honest with you, we've been involved in a lot of battles together.
Mm-hmm.
We really, really have, and you know, he's done his job the same way I have at times, with not the kind of funding that you need to be able to do the job the way you really want to do it, but better that you do a little bit of it than none.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I tell people, you know, right now the Republican Party of Arkansas is controlled by, you know, consultant types like, again, Chris Caldwell, Chase Duggar, and a few others. I tell people instead, donate to groups like Conduit News. There's another group called the Republican Patriots of Arkansas, Secure Arkansas, a group I've mentioned before. the Arkansas Integrity Initiative Group. They're the ones that actually protect FOIA. I think you were talking about earlier.
Yep.
What's happened, Kenny? Like, what happened while I was gone? What did y'all let happen to the state?
They elected a bunch of Republicans, but they did not, as I said before, clean house regarding the corrupt consultant types within the party.
They elected DC people.
Yeah. And like I said, the problem is you get interested, you want to run for office, and you get a guy that's a campaign manager and he says he's a Christian conservative, but then nobody bothers to look at their client list. For instance, one of the clients of Chris Caldwell is actually Meta, where that's Mark Zuckerberg's Facebook group, and we all know what a leftist Mark Zuckerberg is. Well, again, that's one of Chris Caldwell's clients, and Chris Caldwell has been able to shut down Republican committee meetings on his own by. I
mean, is he the one that raised it to $40,000 to run for Senate and governor?
Most likely he probably had a hand in that, but I know he's on video during one of the state winter committee meetings. They were having debates over issues. They had a 4-page agenda, and about the end of the second page, he made a motion to adjourn, and they shut down the meeting. The guy basically runs the party from behind the shadows, and nobody's allowed to debate or have any discussion on what actually happens within the Republican Party. He's going to be a delegate to the state convention, which from what I understand has already been rigged to where the Rules Committee has given themselves the power to decide what can and can't be talked about at that convention. And so, of course, during the last one, what they did is they said you can't talk about certain issues. And when the convention said, yes, we can, the executive committee met and decided to nullify everything. And then the cowardly, useless idiots that run the RNC did nothing about it. And so we're still kind of stuck with basically leftists still running the Republican Party.
Yeah, definitely.
And so that's kind of the status, and it's kind of the state of where things are regarding that issue.
All right, we need to take a break, go to the phones. We've got a caller that is wanting to talk about the data centers that we were hearing about from Kenny. And was it Bill?
Bill. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, let's get Bill up. Hi, Bill. How are you? Welcome to the Dave Elswick Show.
Hey, Dave. I'm doing well. Long time no speak.
Yeah, what's up?
I wanted to reach out because I've got somebody that, not much. I've actually got a group that I know of that's very interested in putting a data center down in the Little Rock port. But besides that, they're also interested in putting a waste-to-energy plant in that would be able to power the entirety of the port and be able to lower the rates. But the problem they're running into is Entergy. Entergy does not want the competition. So, I mean, that's just another thing about these data centers that make it hard is when you've got a major utility like that that's got a monopoly, it makes it very hard to get businesses built. So now what they're considering is moving the data center and the waste-to-energy plant to West Siloam Springs because the growing population up there is more acceptable to having energy from multiple different sources. And, of course, unfortunately, there's not been a lot done on the local level here to try and attract this business here. So our landfills are almost full, and we've got an opportunity to solve two problems with kill two birds with one stone, so to speak.
Yeah.
So I'd like to hear you guys' thoughts on that.
I was going to ask. That sounds most like an incinerator. That's the first thing I thought of was where they take the waste and they burn it and they use energy from that. I think there was an attempt to do that.
Not exactly. This is more like the Changing World Technologies model, where they put the trash under super high heat and pressure, and they gasify it, so they get a clean hydrocarbon out of it, like a methane, natural gas kind of thing out of it that they can burn off cleanly.
Clean incinerator,
plant, really, and some of them. The clean incinerator, correct, but but it gets rid of everything, and it just seems like a win-win situation.
Yeah, Bill, do me a favor.
With it out at the port. Absolutely.
Yeah, you evidently know the people who are trying to do this. Would you have them contact Val? We'll put you on hold, and Val will get a phone number from you, and we'll get these people on the air so they can tell us their story, and they can tell us about this new technology.
Yep.
They just moved I forget where they moved it to now, but I had the people in. They moved that huge turbine generator. Just I don't know, 30 miles from outside Little Rock, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
So,
well, yeah, your local utilities are, by the way, side note, a lot of the political consultants have your local utilities as clients as well. So, and that's on both parties. So that's why you're never going to see any reform in that. Another reason why you need to kick out the consultants within the political parties. They're selling you down the river on that, on almost every issue, including that one. I agree. And speaking of this, another thing, when I thought of these data centers, it reminded me of another promise that was made by these same type of people. We had a company that opened in 2008. It was supposed to give 1,000 jobs. It was $150 million. In 2016, it only had about 450 people, and then it laid people off. Here's a quote from it. "We appreciate all that LM has done while here, and we wish G the best as they go forward," said Jay Cheshire, Executive Director of the Little Rock Regional Chamber. This organization gotten $6.5 million from the governor's Quick Action Closing Fund. That was Governor Beebe at the time. $8 million from the Arkansas Economic Development Commission. $3,500 to pay per worker to train them, and the General Assembly gave them a 27-year exemption from the income tax. They gave back around $3.4 million to the state. I didn't get any of that. I doubt most people listening didn't get that either. And they gave back the acreage from the land that was on, which they claim was valued at $5.4 million. I don't know if that's where the new data center is supposed to go, but in any event, these are the same. The LM wind power promises from the same people are what we're getting now. And so that's yet another reason
let me.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'd like to reach out to my contact, and I can give him y'all's number up there, if I could, and see if he's got any, if he wants to come on.
Okay, yeah.
I would like any pressure I can, because there's some other, Dave, you know me, there's some other side businesses that I'm working with him, but this is one of the ones that is kind of the linchpin to get the other business going.
Right.
And so I will definitely reach out to him.
All right. I appreciate it. You get that.
You've got my number. You can feel free to reach out to me.
Yeah. Get a hold of.
I'll do it.
I'm going to put you on hold. Give it to Val. All right. Val needs all these numbers as well. So Val, put him on hold and then talk to him and get the information. We appreciate your call. Thank you.
Yeah, good job.
Yeah, 9:43 here on the Dave Elswick Show. What else is happening? What are you seeing develop? We can talk about this developing for the General Assembly as they meet at the beginning of next year. What do you think is going to happen?
Well, because of the primary elections, the consultant class overall lost despite outspending some of their opponents, I think 15-1. I think we'll see some efforts at some conservative things. And I think, of course, the Franklin County Prison, as mentioned before, I don't think that's going to go through.
It's dead.
But some other attempts, maybe more attempts to gut FOIA may go through. I know that during the fiscal session, Brian King tried to push a bill that would have banned some of these data centers, a real effort to stop them, but that was slowed down and it didn't go anywhere.
Well, the legislature, correct me if I'm wrong, last year voted that local zoning boards couldn't just tell these data centers that we don't want you here. They couldn't do that. They got to take them if they come to your town and want to build one.
Yeah, they paved the way for them to go through, and now we see once again our local. Even though we have a Republican supermajority, we have globalism being pushed in Arkansas because again, it does no good. I mean, we could have 90 Republicans in the Arkansas House. It wouldn't do any good if they're going to go behind closed doors and take orders from, again, the consultant types. And so I think that there's going to be a little bit of effort to try to fix things, but it's still going to be an uphill battle. We had a bill years ago that would have stopped local law enforcement from working with ATF, like what happened to Malinowski, and that was spiked and killed by Asa Hutchinson.
Now, I need to get State Senator Mark Johnson on and follow up with him about what kind of information he's gotten since he sent that letter up to our congressmen and senators.
Yeah, and what are we going to do with these basically blue cities? I know the Republican Party has pretty much dropped the ball on trying to run candidates against them. They seem to not put forth the money and effort to try to kick out these mayors like Frank Scott Jr. By the way, Frank Scott Jr. is pretending to fight against data centers now. He and Wendell Griffin are.
I saw that, and I was like, I'm never hell must froze over because neither one of them I ever agree with. We're always on opposing sides, but I would like to see these regulations, and I've invited the mayor to come on, and I haven't heard anything.
That's not going to happen. I've called him a crook on here.
Yeah. He's.
I mean, I have too, and I said I was like, I know that I'm opposing you, but we need to talk about this.
Yeah. He stuck his finger in the wind, or his handlers did, because let's be honest, he hasn't made a decision on his own probably ever since he got mayor.
Yeah, where's all the credit cards?
Yeah. When he's not eating at Arthur's Steakhouse or whatever, some
in the middle of the brawl.
Yeah, he's
get knives thrown at him.
Yeah, and when. Yeah, and they realize, a lot of people hate these data centers, so let me pretend like I'm doing something.
Well, I do agree that he is right in the fact that I think it was messed up that the state made where you can't say no to them. But he is right. We do need to make some regulations around this. I feel that I don't care why he's doing it. I think it's a good idea.
Yeah. And there's a lot of Democrats that are against these data centers because, some of them have been conned into thinking that carbon is a pollution, but they're all real pollutants from these things. As I mentioned before, some of the people that are getting sick. I've seen videos on Twitter of if you type in data center on Twitter X, you'll see examples of the water having almost no pressure, and if it does, have all kinds of contaminants in it. And so, yes, there are some legitimate reasons and it is crony capitalism. And so, there's some.
Well, that's the thing. Who does it benefit?
It benefits
the
globalists.
Right. Who does it really benefiting? Like, who in Congress is supporting these? They're getting something out of it. And our legislator in Arkansas, I mean.
Well, in the end, it's basically globalists, people that want more control over us.
Yeah, they want our data.
Yeah.
Let me put it on my computer.
Yeah, they are, and I actually had looked up the one in the West Memphis data center. It was the lady from Google that went there, and when I looked her up, she turned out that she's a member of a whole bunch of globalist organizations like the Council on Foreign Relations, Blackstone, and she, those are the kinds of people that you're giving money and power to when you put these data centers in. It's not going to go to, fight China. It's not going to be used to cure disease. As a matter of fact, it'll probably use for the opposite. Fauci will use it to probably make a COVID strain that ivermectin can't stop. That's what it's
okay,
going to
so
be used
tell me,
for.
do you think you think they're ever going to get him?
I really wish they could. I really wish someone would, one way or the other, but I don't think it's going to happen. I think because of the Republican Party on a national level is kind of in disarray. I just don't see. I really wish. I almost wish it's going to take Fauci going to some area where there's a conservative sheriff that will put handcuffs on him. Maybe if what's that guy in Lonoke County who won the race for Republican nominee there? Aaron Spencer.
Yeah,
maybe
I know
he ends up. Yeah, he maybe
Aaron
if he put.
Used to be on We Are the 22.
Mm-hmm. And maybe if he goes and
Board.
Fauci ends up in the area, he'll put the handcuffs on him. Same thing. We've been wanting that to happen with Hillary and all these other people.
I mean, they've been trying. Rand Paul has been trying to get Fauci since Fauci was Fauci.
Yeah. But anyway, the lady is Ruth Porat. She's the president and chief innovation officer of Google's parent company, Alphabet. And she was there at the West Memphis place shaking hands with Mayor Marco McClendon, who's basically just like Frank Scott Jr. He's just a yes guy for whatever the globalists want in that area. And I looked her up, and I'm trying to pull up her Wikipedia right there. She was a British American business executive, and she talks about how her father would fought and I think had survived the Holocaust and all that. But and I looked up her Wikipedia page. You've got a Ruth Porat, P-O-R-A-T. You'll find some information about her, and it kind of jumped out at me. It's like, wow, these are the people that are doing this. And as a lot of the big tech people have been, basically just as globalists. Bill Gates, of course, he's the one putting the poison ticks out that are getting people sick, supposedly with meat. Mark Zuckerberg, I mentioned before. But yeah, board membership of this lady, board of directors of Bloomberg Philanthropies. Bloomberg's a leftist. Board of directors of the Blackstone Group. Board of directors of the Council of Foreign Relations. Yeah, so that's the Aspen
not a person that you can really trust.
Yeah, Economic Strategy Group at the Aspen Institute. That's a Soros organization.
Yeah,
absolute left. And she supported Hillary Clinton for president in 2008 and 2016, hosting fundraisers at the Dakota in New York City. So, yeah, that's the kind of people you're giving power to if you were supporting data centers.
All right, we got to get a break in. Final break of the hour. We'll come back, got a final segment to do, and then in the next hour, Razorback Zach's going to be here. The Lady Hogs are going to be starting their super regional today. We'll find out when first pitch is about that when we have Razorback Zach on the Dave Elswick Show.
Scott Jennings fearlessly fights back against the mainstream media on the Scott Jennings podcast.
The Supreme Court's decision striking down racial gerrymandering. The Supreme Court said enough is enough. And in this ruling, the justices raised the bar. They said if you want to challenge a map as discriminatory, you now have to prove actual intent, not just point to statistical disparities.
Subscribe for free today on Spotify, Apple, YouTube, or SalemPodcastNetwork.com. Did you hear Congressman Bruce Westerman on the Dave Elswick Show?
You can get people from the Democrats to many times support conservative policies. What's your special elixir that's helping you do that?
Well, there's different groups of Democrats up here, and there's some that there's issues that you can work with them on. And most of the time, it's just looking at the facts and finding somebody that wants to work for the good of the country, and we can work together on issues when we do that. It's really the far left of the Democrat Party that's sounding the bell and that's got the attention of the media. But when we look at certain economic issues and issues with natural resources, we've been able to do a lot of good work on the Natural Resources Committee.
Don't miss Congressman Westerman, Wednesday mornings at 7:30 on the Dave Elswick Show, 101.1. The Answer. In a world where more and more people decide what's right and wrong based on how they feel, what happens when feelings become the only moral standard? If emotions alone define truth, then who decides why murder, theft, or violence are wrong? And if someone feels justified in destroying property or harming others, on what basis can society say they're wrong? For 50 years, Dennis Prager has challenged audiences around the world to think deeply about the moral foundations of civilization. In his new book, If There Is No God, he confronts the biggest questions of human existence. Why does evil go unpunished? Why do innocent people suffer? And can morality survive without God? Whether a believer, a skeptic, or somewhere in between, this book offers serious answers for a morally confused age. Clear, provocative, and accessible. If There Is No God by Dennis Prager. Available now at PragerStore.com. That's PragerStore.com. Now, back to the Dave Elswick Show, 101.1. The Answer.
Hey, Kenny, what do you know about this white supremacist group that has bought up X amount of acres of land, and you don't buy a house, you basically buy into the area, and they're not letting it's a white supremacist group. They're not letting blacks into that area, and Jews need not apply either. Have you heard much on this?
It's a little bit about it. The one thing that they seem to be interesting about this group is they want to be left alone, whereas the Muslim supremacist group in Little Rock wants to expand and do the same thing that Muhammad the Prophet did when he to the Jews of Medina, which is pretend to be a refugee, infiltrate, gain more power, and eventually kill them off. And so there's a huge difference between, that's the main difference, is one is a group that, you know, they may be racist, they may, you know, and they may have views that most people generally don't like, but they do wish to be left alone, as far as I can tell. Whereas the Muslim Sharia law community that was recently being built up also in Little Rock is, again, their goal is to spread. That's how they spread Islam. That is how Islam spreads like a cancer. That's what's happening in Western Europe with the gangs. Is they first come in pretending to be refugees. They set up their own community. Pretty soon you start seeing churches get burned, and then you start seeing, you know, young kids being kidnapped and that sort of thing spreading. So I don't know if I think there was a lawsuit filed against that. I don't know the status of it.
Yeah, it was just filed. Like, there was a woman in St. Louis who was denied because she was Jewish, married to a black man, and has mixed children. And now the group is being sued under civil rights law. So legally, you know, once you're selling homes and developing land and commerce, fair housing laws apply. Like,
Yes,
I talked
they
about
do.
that before.
Mm-hmm.
With the Muslim thing. And like, here's where it gets more complicated, and, you know, and where people start accusing each other of hypocrisy. A lot of Americans look to rural separatist white community and think, okay, weird, fringe, isolated people who mostly just want to be left alone. You know, they don't agree. I don't agree with it, but they don't necessarily see it as a movement trying to fundamentally reshape America's laws and culture nationwide. But
No, the Muslims don't want
Right.
Sharia law
right.
in the United States. And as long as they want to build places that Sharia law trumps constitutional law, I say they shouldn't be able to build.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
But they're saying, well, you're just a hypocrite if you don't care what white nationalists do. I mean, they're Americans, first of all. They don't want to destroy our country. They're not trying to, 19 of them didn't fly a plane into the World Trade Center either. I do understand that the KKK, who was Democrats at the time, burnt crosses in people's yards and things, but they're not doing that. They're just kind of living how a lot of people in the hills live anyway, you know, just up on their mountain.
And plus, as I recall, this lady wasn't even had no plan to even go live there. So
it's just a test to see if she could file a lawsuit.
Yeah. And I think the organization is I don't know if they're selling houses or just selling land.
It does make you wonder, though, how many people were denied, since there's only been like 5 houses built in this Muslim thing since, 2014 or whatever?
Yeah, it goes
Makes
back
you wonder how many people were denied there, and it wasn't like public knowledge.
That whole thing was they wanted to build a mosque.
Yeah.
To get it started. That's what they were trying to do. We talked about that when that was a story here locally. My whole thing is, if they want only Muslims to live there, fine with me.
But that's a religion, though. That's not a race.
But here's the thing that I don't want them to do when they come in and they say, and we're going to use Sharia law.
Exactly.
You know, and it supersedes the Constitution. Absolutely not.
Right. And that's the biggest deal about it.
Yeah, I know.
Is Sharia law.
That's why Abbott stopped them in Texas.
Which Christians aren't asking, or the Christian white nationalists aren't asking for us to change laws. So it's not really hypocritical when you look at it that way.
Yeah.
That's our only problem with it. No, you're not going to enact Sharia law where you get to beat your wife and it's legal. Or make her wear this.
I'm putting up my hand because we're out of time. News is on its way. Razorback Zach after the news. Kenny Wallace, thanks for coming in. It's good to see you again,
for having
man.
me.
All right, let's take a break.
That's it.
All right.
Find us at 1011fmtheanswer.com. Download our apps, stream us 24/7, or watch us at snc.tv. KDXE, Kamek Village, Little Rock.
Breaking news this hour from Town Hall. I'm Rich Thomason. President Trump says for decades, American presidents have considered actively intervening in Cuba. But in Mr. Trump's words, it looks like I'll be the one that does it. Secretary of State Rubio says the Trump administration would prefer to resolve differences with Cuba peacefully, but he doubts the U.S. can reach a diplomatic resolution with the island's communist regime. The secretary is in Sweden for a NATO foreign ministers meeting. He says freedom of navigation in the Strait of Hormuz is more important to other NATO members than it is to the U.S., suggesting the allies might want to lend a hand should the U.S. have to force the issue with Iran. President Trump says the U.S. will be sending an additional 5,000 troops to Poland. The move comes as 5,000 American troops are pulled out of Germany. It's a lengthy prison sentence for a Minnesota woman, the center of a massive fraud scandal, ripped off taxpayers to the tune of hundreds of millions of dollars.
In what is billed by officials as the largest COVID-19 fraud scheme in the country, Amy Bach has been sentenced to nearly 42 years in prison. Bach ran Feeding Our Future and was convicted in a staggering $250 million fraud case that helped ignite an immigration crackdown in Minnesota by the Trump administration. After the sentencing, authorities held a news conference to announce charges against 15 more people accused of fraud and receiving federal payments for a variety of social services administered through Minnesota's state government. I'm Lisa Dwyer.
A NASCAR icon is dead. Kyle Busch was just 41 years old. His family says he died after being hospitalized, survived by his wife and 2 children. Wall Street looks like it's heading for another winning week. The Dow is up 278 points, and the NASDAQ ahead 116. More on these stories, townhall.com.
Just hearing the word IRS can make people break out in a cold sweat. No one wants to deal with the IRS, and now you don't have to. The good news is Legal Tax Defense has been successfully negotiating with the IRS for more than 15 years. It doesn't matter how much you owe, whether it's $5,000 or $5 million. You deserve the best in the business on your side, and that is Legal Tax Defense. Even if you're working with someone else and just want a second opinion, there is no cost or obligation to call. They can prevent levies, liens, wage garnishments, even file back tax returns. And the best news about Legal Tax Defense is they won't take your case unless they know they will reduce or eliminate your tax debt. Call Legal Tax Defense right now for a free, no-risk consultation. 800-292-7875. 800-292-7875. You have nothing to lose, but everything to gain. 800-292-7875.
British police are asking witnesses to come forward in their investigation of alleged wrongdoing by former Prince Andrew tied to the late Jeffrey Epstein.
Thames Valley Police also said they had been in contact with lawyers for a woman who alleges she was taken to a location in Windsor for sexual purposes in 2010. A police statement said if she wishes to report this to police, it will be taken seriously and handled with care, sensitivity and respect for her privacy. Police are calling for anyone with information about alleged sexual offences, corruption, fraud, or the sharing of confidential information to come forward. The 66-year-old former prince was arrested in February and questioned under criminal caution on suspicion of misconduct in public office related to his role as a British trade envoy. I'm Lawrence Brooks.
People have set fire to an Ebola treatment center in one of the towns at the heart of the outbreak in eastern Congo. Fear and anger growing over the health crisis in that country. News and analysis, townhall.com. A judge clears the deck of all charges against a former school administrator in a school shooting case.
Ebony Parker was accused of ignoring warnings about a 6-year-old with a gun. The judge ruled Thursday that the actions of Parker did not constitute a crime. The charges against the former assistant principal stemmed from a July 2023 shooting at Rich Neck Elementary School in Newport News, Virginia. Teacher Abby Zwerner was wounded. A grand jury indictment charged Parker with 8 felony counts of child neglect, each carrying a potential 5-year sentence. Parker's defense argued she was unaware the child had a gun. Keith Peters, Washington.
Forecasters are predicting a developing El Nino could dampen the upcoming Atlantic hurricane season, but it would not completely eliminate the chance of violent weather. NOAA's forecasting a below-average season, fewer named storms, and fewer hurricanes. More on these stories at townhall.com.
There's a real battle going on, not only for our future, but that of our children and grandchildren. How do we ensure they have it better than we do? One way is to keep listening to us. We're your information source in the battle. 101.1, The Answer. Scott Jennings sees vigilante violence coming from the left.
These political vigilantes, these anti-capitalist radicals, these brainless leftists, the violent, and those who cheer on the violent. Instead of resolving our differences at the ballot box, they have decided that we should resolve our differences through violence and rebellion. Spooky times on the American left.
The Scott Jennings Show, weekdays at noon, right before Hugh Hewitt at 2 on 101.1, The Answer. The news never stops, and neither does your schedule. That's why we're here, keeping you up to date with all the biggest stories of the day. We're 101.1, The Answer, where Little Rock comes to talk.
All right, he wasn't here last week, but he's back this week. Razorback Zach is back. He's here in the studio with me on the Dave Elswick Show, final hour of the Friday edition as we move into Memorial Day 2026. I will not be on Monday. It'll be a best stuff show, and we'll play a Jerry Stewart special about Memorial Day, remembering those who've given their full measure for their country. Keep that in mind. And you got a couple of guys here that were in the military. So, I've got friends that died during my time in the military. I've got high school buddies that died in Vietnam. So, make sure you get out and you remember on Monday as you're eating a steak, or if you can't eat a regular steak, that you're out there eating a hot dog because that's all you can afford. Keep in mind that somebody has put themselves between you and a bullet so that you can have the freedom that you have.
Yeah.
So it's important.
And I was going to save it for the end of the show, but since you brought it up this hour, look, it ain't about us vets this time.
No,
it ain't about us vets.
That's Veterans Day.
Yeah. It's about the ones that never made it home.
That's exactly right. The real heroes.
Oh yeah. And I've had a couple of them that never made it home either. And that's hard to fathom.
Well, it is hard to fathom at times. It was really hard. Whenever I go to DC, I go to the Vietnam Wall, and there's a few names that I look up of guys that I graduated with in high school that gave their lives over there. All right, 10:08. We're going to talk about Razorback sports now. First, what do you think about this Kyle Busch thing?
That's wild. I was just talking to a friend of mine about NASCAR and how I missed the old days.
Yeah.
And we were talking about favorite drivers, and I named Kyle Busch as one of my favorites.
Yeah.
That afternoon, I get the alert sitting in the movie theater that he was gone. I was like, what happened?
Yeah. Nobody knows yet. They have not given us a cause of death. I really want to find out. They say he got sick. He went to the hospital and he died.
But here's the thing: it's really fascinating because if you watch the comments that he made at the end of that last race,
you
kind of look at it and go, okay, did he know something?
Yeah, maybe he did. I don't know,
or didn't know, or because if you look, sometimes people make comments and all of a sudden they end up passing away. I don't want to say the other word, but it sounds a little morbid. It kind of you kind of stop and go, did they know and just kind of masked it, or what happened here?
Because we haven't heard anything except that he was taken to the hospital with a severe medical condition, and he died. That's all I know, and that's
41 years old, Dave.
Yeah.
41, man,
and just won last Friday and was supposed to drive tonight.
Yeah. He was one of, and you can't tell me he's not going to be a NASCAR Hall of Famer.
Oh,
you cannot tell me he is not going to be
236 victories. I think. Yeah, he showed that he was.
Well, between him and his brother, oh, dude, you can't take. Neither one of them deserve not to be in the Hall of Fame. They both. I mean, if you're gonna put some of the guys in the Hall of Fame that are there that I don't think deserve there yet, you've got to put both of them in there.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you on that. I think that he's a first ballot guy that will be taken. And now that he's died at 41 years old,
He should be eligible next year, shouldn't he?
Yeah, he'll go in quick.
So okay, so I'm gonna ask you that. Then we're gonna get into the Hogs,
The
which,
lady back.
dude. Are all the Hall of Fames kind of the same? That if you're in order to be a first, I don't know how Major League Baseball works, but you have to die in order to be a first ballot the following year. Or
Not
like, what is
really.
that?
I mean, it comes down to, I forget how long you have to be out of the game in Major League Baseball. I used to know all that crap. And you know what? A lot of water under the bridge.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't care anymore.
Well, I mean, look at who's the one from the Cincinnati Reds that just got in? Pete Rose. He's been gone how long?
A long time.
And he's just now, I think, didn't they just put him in?
Well, he just died recently, but he's been out of
He's been out of the game for a while.
The game for a long, long time, and then you look at when he was betting on the Cincinnati Reds. He was always betting for his team, not against his team, but he's betting for his team. And you look how sports betting was then and what it's become now. I mean, you can't watch a sports show without,
That's what I was saying the other day.
On one another app that's saying, vote.
Well, you've got
put your money down.
You've got Saracen. You've got I think Oaklawn's getting in the game finally after so long. DraftKings. You got all these other sports books and everything. 30, 40 years ago, because I was gonna say 2030, but that was like 2000. But
10 years ago,
everything that we're doing now that was illegal back in the day is legal now. I mean, look at what happened to SMU in the 80s. All that's legal now. Every single bit of it.
Absolutely. It is, and it's already starting to have the result that I thought it would have you can vote on that the next pitch that the pitcher's going to throw is a fastball. I mean, you can bet on anything now. And that's why people get in so much trouble. You're not doing, covering spreads or things of that nature. You're in the moment.
Well, it's gone beyond just, money lines and spreads and point spreads and over unders and things like that. Now it's how many strikes is he going to throw? How many balls is he going to throw? How many touchdowns? How many catches? And it's so specific that, I mean, anybody can, like you said, anybody can bet on anything.
That's exactly right. And you can lose a lot of money.
Oh, yeah.
And a lot of people have done that. But I said that players would start shaving points and stuff. And it's already starting. Again, we've got all these pitchers that are getting caught up and they're going to jail because, they're I got to walk this guy, so to speak,
Yeah. And this whole automatic walk thing, I don't know how I feel about that. It's kind of like the ABS system in the SEC tournament. Have you caught any of that?
No.
It's interesting. We actually pulled one. I want to say it was against Tennessee.
So you can say, no, that was a strike. It wasn't a ball.
Yeah. Okay. You can challenge it right at the plate.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. You can challenge it right at the plate. What he did was, and you could tell from the angle, because you know how they do it from behind the pitcher.
Yeah.
You could tell that ball was on the outside. Umpire called a strike. The guy stepped back and went.
Yeah.
ABS system came in, called it a ball, overturned it.
Did you know that over at Dickey Stevens Park, they have hundreds of cameras in that park?
Oh, yeah.
And they can tell you what the rotation of the ball is at any given time. They can tell that a pitcher, let's say, when he started, he was throwing at, let's say, 95, and suddenly he's throwing 93. There might be something wrong with him. And these are people, they're putting a lot of money behind it.
Oh, yeah.
That's why they're yanking.
Well, look at, I mean, bomb walkers the same way. Bomb walkers have got sense. If you look at the press box, normally it's got like the radar gun coming out of one of the boxes, but then you've got all these antennas and everything. Same kind of thing, because it transmits back to the hunt center in their pitching cages that Matt Hobbs can pull up that a specific game and a specific pitch and every little detail from
amazing.
Arm movement, shoulder movement, RPM.
I'm just saying, I'm glad I wasn't playing baseball then.
Can you imagine what that would have been like back then, though?
It'd be crazy.
I mean, it'd be different.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll tell you, here's what I'll tell you. Dennis Eckersley wouldn't have given up a home run to Gibson.
Yeah, no, that's true.
All right. And that great moment in baseball history would have never
happened.
Would
have never happened.
Right.
You know what? And I want to shift gears here. Arkansas softball, man.
Yeah,
you've been talking them up all year,
Yeah,
and I finally caught a couple games, and holy crap, dude!
They can hit the ball, man.
They can, and they're consistent.
Yeah, they are.
Something that Razorback baseball isn't. We're gonna get into that later, though. But man,
Okay, so you told me that first pitch for the Super
first
Regional
pitch
is 11.
for the Super Regional against Duke at Bogle Park is tentatively scheduled for 11 o'clock.
Is it raining up there right now?
It's spitting, but it's going to be on ESPNU.
Yeah.
They may delay it a little bit. I don't see them delaying it too long because regardless, they have to get that game in today somehow.
Yeah,
they have to.
You got to get 3 games.
Yeah, you've got it. And I don't think they're going to do. I don't think they do double headers for postseason.
Oh, it's far. Yeah, that's probably true, especially a Super Regional.
Yeah, I don't with so much laying on the line. I don't think they'll do a double header tomorrow. I could be wrong.
I'm with you. I think there's about a 75-25% chance that the Ladybacks make it to Oklahoma City this year.
I mean,
it'll be the first time.
If you get through Duke,
and
you're there. You're there.
They should get through Duke.
If you get through Duke, you're there. If you win 2 out of 3, you're there.
Yeah.
All you got to do is win 2.
Yeah, they got to do. They need. Well, that's what I said. Who did they play last year?
And
I thought that they would win it, and they lost it. They lost.
Was it
final.
Texas? I think it was an in-conference Super Regional.
It was at the. They lost that game, and I just.
Oh no! It was Oklahoma.
It's always been Oklahoma.
Yeah, it was Oklahoma because they had a chance to go to Oklahoma City on the line.
Yeah,
and we were up like 5-4, and Oklahoma hit a bomb and won it in a walk-off.
That one girl they got she hit 40 home runs this year.
Yeah,
she's hit home runs in softball that I've watched that make hardball home run hitters look weak.
Oh yeah.
I mean, we're talking 425 feet.
I mean, she's making it look easy.
Yeah.
That's the scary part.
Crushes the ball.
She's not even because you know how most of them they'll back away from the plate and get a running start, which I've never seen in my life.
Oh, the slap hitter.
The slap hitter. What is that?
Yeah.
But the funny part about that is she's making it look easy.
Here's my question. Why couldn't you do that in baseball?
I mean,
the rules in baseball doesn't say you got to stand still in the batter's box.
No, but think about it this way: you've got a ball that's about the size of a grapefruit in softball.
Yeah,
coming at you. No higher than maybe. And I don't want to take anything away from these ladies that are fast pitch.
Like 76 miles.
I was going to say 75, 80 miles an hour.
Okay, what's that comparable to? With baseball, like 97, 98?
Yeah, 98 mile an hour fastball.
All
That's
right.
about the size of a tennis ball.
Yeah.
The size difference is a little bit different. I'd love to see Zach Stewart or Ryder Helfrich step up there and do a slap hit.
Yeah, PCA. Man.
DVH might actually lose his mind.
Yeah. Pete Crow Armstrong. Wouldn't that be crazy? Now he's a person who would try that.
He would, and he wouldn't have any problem with it either.
Yeah, no, he would not have any problem whatsoever. All right, so what has failed the Ladybacks in the past has been their pitching, which is pretty good. Has been very good this season. I mean, they got 2 losses.
They've got 2 losses.
Did Heron lose both those games? Or
No, so their overall record's 45-11. Their SEC record's 15-9.
Okay,
they're a 5 seed in the NCAA tournament.
Right.
Here's the thing. They are the only school. Let me see if I can get my notes. They're the only team nationally to go 3-0 in regional play with 3 run rule victories back to back to back. The only one to do it. They're the 8th team to do it ever since the super regional format began in 2005.
All right. Well, they got a great coach.
Oh yeah,
she's a fantastic coach, and they have good pitching. Personally, I would think that the portal would be their friend.
I just don't want them to see them make the same mistake that DVH and that crew did and miss heavily. But I don't think Deifel's going to do that. She's been pretty spot on last 2-3 years.
She has. She's been good.
And the thing is you could see this building from a mile away. 4 or 5 years ago, you saw the trend coming up.
4 or 5 years ago, this was not the team that could hit the softball as well as they had to get to Oklahoma City. They're now.
Well, I said it.
They've been doing the job.
I said it sitting here last year. Before Courtney Deifel got here, I didn't know Arkansas had a softball program.
Yeah.
Nobody paid attention to it.
Well, softball, fast pitch softball, college softball has really, really become popular.
Well, yeah, with the TV deals and everything. But I mean, to an Arkansas fan, it's like the lesser known sports.
Yeah.
Prior to 9 years ago.
Yeah, it's like volleyball.
It's like, softball team, big whoop. Now it looks like a mini Baum Walker out there on decent weather days.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I got to tell you. All right, 21 after 10. Razorbacks going to be with me here until the top of the hour. We got a lot to talk about on the Dave Elswick Show.
It's like your mental health. If you're struggling and feeling overwhelmed, it's important to do something about it. It can be as simple as talking to someone in your community, or just taking a deep, calming breath when you need it. Nice. For mental health resources, check out loveyourmindtoday.org. At loveyourmindtoday.org, you'll find information that may help you get through a tough time. Things like tips for dealing with stress, how to navigate difficulties like financial worries, anger, substance use, and more. You can also find real stories of how people navigated their own mental health challenges. Because once you start to address the problem, you can go so much further. Visit loveyourmindtoday.org. That's loveyourmindtoday.org. Brought to you by the Huntsman Mental Health Institute and the Ad Council.
This is 101.1 The Answer, where Little Rock comes to talk. Start your morning with a voice you know and trust. Dave Elswick, bringing you the issues that matter to Arkansas, the news behind the headlines, and conversations you won't hear anywhere else. Then in the afternoon, stay informed and fired up with Doc Washburn, breaking down the biggest stories of the day and what they mean for you. And all day long, hear from some of the biggest voices in talk radio. CNN's Scott Jennings, Mike Gallagher, and Larry Elder, bringing you sharp insight, lively debate, and the perspective you've been looking for. News, opinion, insight, and the conversations shaping our community. From Little Rock to the natural state and beyond. This is 101.1 The Answer. 101.1 The Answer, where Little Rock comes to talk.
Estate planning lawyer and CPA Bob Carlson has been called America's #1 retirement expert. Tens of thousands of American retirees trust his advice, but his latest bombshell sounds almost too good to be true. It's a way to boost Social Security income and collect more on every Social Security check and create a lifetime monthly income stream 100% tax-free. So today, Bob has made it his mission to give retirees and future retirees the full story in a free report. Log on now to retirementwatchreport.com to get yours. This retirement strategy is fully approved by the IRS, even though less than 1% of Americans know enough to use it. Nobel Prize-winning economist and MIT professor Robert Merton predicts this strategy will become one of the key ways to fund retirement in the future. Log on to retirementwatchreport.com to get your free report. That's retirementwatchreport.com. retirementwatchreport.com.
The Dave Elswick Show is back. 101.1 The Answer.
24 minutes after 10. We've got about 24 minutes left of the show. No, we got more than that. We got a little over a half hour left of the show today. So, and then we'll take 3 days off. We will not be on live. The show will be here, but I won't be here, and neither will Val. Best of, and a Jerry Stewart special about Memorial Day to listen to on Monday, because Monday's Memorial Day. It's a day that we get off. So I won't be here. I'll be sleeping in, because whenever I have a day off, I sleep in.
Do you know how to sleep in anymore?
Oh, yes, I do. I can sleep in very, very easily. I am not an early morning kind of person.
Right.
I'm more of a night owl kind of person. And I had gotten away from being a morning host. And then, Salem hired me on, and that's what they wanted me to do. Well, if that's what you want to do, boss, you sign the paycheck, I show up.
There you go.
Want me there.
There you go.
And I've been doing it now for 11 years here on.
Has it really been 11 years?
Yeah, 101. Yeah.
Wow.
Doing my thing.
I didn't think it was that long.
Yeah, it's been a long time. All right. So I think, boy, I'm going to go out on a limb here. I think that the Ladybacks will win the first 2 games and head off to Omaha. Not Omaha.
It all
Oklahoma City.
Well, we hope the Hogs will get to Omaha
Yeah.
too, but I that one's a little iffy right now. But no, this season by itself, 102 weeks dating back to 2020 in the top 25. All right, 6 straight regional, 5th time hosting a super regional in program history. That's a lot.
Is the 5 super regionals that's been the coach's time here, that she's the one who's done it?
I think so. I think it's all under Deifel.
I like her. I think that she's a good coach.
Oh, she's fierce.
Yeah.
I like her.
Yeah,
I really do.
good.
I was looking over some of the notes. Program record 24 run rule victories.
There you go.
24 out of 45 wins were run rules.
24 over 45?
Yeah, 24 of the 45
over
victories.
50% were run rule victories.
What does that tell you?
Wow.
Yeah.
That tells me what I've already knew. They can hit the
This
ball.
this might I'm gonna say it. This year might be a banner year for softball.
Be great. I think that I just want them to get to Omaha. Not Omaha. I keep saying Omaha. Get to.
Well, you really want them to go to
City.
Omaha, don't you?
Yeah. I want them to get to Oklahoma, and I would, if they go, I might have to look and find out how much tickets are. And
I was thinking the same thing.
try
I was
to
like,
buy
I might have to go over there.
one day and see them play.
I really think, man, it's hard to convince me that they're not either going to make Oklahoma City or win the whole thing.
Well,
because how's the bracket in Oklahoma City? Is it similar to Omaha?
Oh yeah,
where you gotta win, like, what is it, 6?
You got it's not easy, and let me tell you what, they've already played probably the teams that they'll play over in Oklahoma City, because the SEC is just loaded for bear this year.
But here's the fun part that you got to think about. Who's the team that's always been their Achilles heel the last couple of years? Oklahoma.
Yeah.
Who did they beat in the regular season?
Yeah, Oklahoma.
Oklahoma.
Yeah. But
so if you can beat them once, you can beat them again.
When you get to the playoffs, though,
it's a different kind of animal.
You better believe it.
It's a different kind of animal.
They've been there a lot. They've been there a lot, and they get to sleep in their own beds.
That's what I don't like, is if you're going to do something like that, put it in a neutral site. But I get like Omaha.
Yeah.
Omaha's a neutral site. There ain't a powerhouse around that is close enough.
Yeah. I agree. You shouldn't have mamas cooking.
Heck no. Well, I mean, you can, but it's frowned upon. Before we jump into baseball next half hour,
yeah.
How much time we got?
You got less than 55 seconds.
Real quick, there has been some developments as far as the naming rights for
okay.
Razorback Stadium. A potential deal is in place. $500 million, not million, billion. It's supposedly the largest package in college football.
Well, it's.
I am terrified of, and we don't know the name yet.
We don't know who's doing it.
We don't know the name yet. Yurachek came out, made comments. Learfield's involved with the national, like the corporation side, the national corporation side of it. But the thing is, if you're going to pay somebody $500 million, it better be It better roll off the tongue because Reynolds Razorback Stadium rolls off the tongue.
Yeah.
Okay. It rolls beautifully. Tyson Razorback Stadium. If that's where they're going,
Tyson Chicken Breast Razorback Stadium.
If that's where they're going, we're gonna have problems.
SRN News, I'm Rich Thomason in Washington. It is recess time for the Senate. Senators have left Washington for their holiday break without voting on a roughly $70 billion fund for immigration enforcement. They leave town amid Republican disagreement over a $1.8 billion fund that would compensate those who claim that they've been the victims of lawfare waged by the Biden Department of Justice. All eyes on Secretary of State Marco Rubio. He's addressing a NATO foreign ministers meeting in Sweden. The secretary says a peaceful solution of the standoff with Cuba's communist regime is looking less likely now, although he says the Trump administration would prefer a diplomatic solution. Wall Street, once again, in record territory. The Dow is up 423 points now for a gain of close to 1%. The Nasdaq ahead 180 points, and the S&P is trading 50 points higher. More details, srnnews.com.
Just hearing the word IRS can make people break out in a cold sweat. No one wants to deal with the IRS, and now you don't have to. The good news is Legal Tax Defense has been successfully negotiating with the IRS for more than 15 years. It doesn't matter how much you owe, whether it's $5,000 or $5 million. You deserve the best in the business on your side, and that is Legal Tax Defense. Even if you're working with someone else and just want a second opinion, there is no cost or obligation to call. They can prevent levies, liens, wage garnishments, even file back tax returns. And the best news about Legal Tax Defense is they won't take your case unless they know they will reduce or eliminate your tax debt. Call Legal Tax Defense right now for a free, no-risk consultation. 800-292-7875. 800-292-7875. You have nothing to lose, but everything to gain. 800-292-7875.
In a world where more and more people decide what's right and wrong based on how they feel, what happens when feelings become the only moral standard? If emotions alone define truth, then who decides why murder, theft, or violence are wrong? And if someone feels justified in destroying property or harming others, on what basis can society say they're wrong? For 50 years, Dennis Prager has challenged audiences around the world to think deeply about the moral foundations of civilization. In his new book, If There Is No God, he confronts the biggest questions of human existence. Why does evil go unpunished? Why do innocent people suffer? And can morality survive without God? Whether a believer, a skeptic, or somewhere in between, this book offers serious answers for a morally confused age. Clear, provocative, and accessible. If There Is No God by Dennis Prager. Available now at PragerStore.com. That's PragerStore.com. Did you hear Congressman Bruce Westerman on the Dave Elswick Show?
You can get people from the Democrats to many times support conservative policies. What's your special elixir that's helping you do that?
Well, there's different groups of Democrats up here, and there's some that there's issues that you can work with them on. And most of the time, it's just looking at the facts and finding somebody that wants to work for the good of the country, and we can work together on issues when we do that. It's really the far left of the Democrat Party that's sounding the bell and that's got the attention of the media. But when we look at certain economic issues and issues with natural resources, we've been able to do a lot of good work on the Natural Resources Committee.
Don't miss Congressman Westerman, Wednesday mornings at 7:30 on the Dave Elswick Show. 101.1, The Answer. This is 101.1, The Answer, where Little Rock comes to talk. Start your day with Dave Elswick in the morning, breaking down the stories shaping Arkansas and the nation and hearing what you have to say. Then in the afternoon, join Doc Washburn as he takes on the biggest headlines, asks the tough questions, and opens the phones for real conversation. Because on 101.1, The Answer, talk radio means your voice matters. Call in, sound off, be a part of the discussion at 501-401-1011. Plus, hear from some of the biggest names in talk radio. CNN Scott Jennings, Mike Gallagher, Larry Elder, bringing you smart analysis, strong opinions, and the debate everyone's talking about. Local voices, national perspective, and your chance to be heard. 501-401-1011. 101.1, The Answer, where Little Rock comes to talk. The conservative voice of Arkansas, The Dave Elswick Show on 101.1, The Answer.
All right, final half hour of the Dave Elswick Show on a Friday here. Oh, that's me.
That's you.
Okay. I didn't know. That's weird.
He did look a little confused, didn't he?
Yeah, I was just trying to delete a phone call that came in. Let me tell you what, don't ever answer, would you like to know about how you can save money on this or that? Because they give that to everybody, and everybody calls you because they want to try to close you.
Oh, yeah.
For the deal. I'm looking at, pulling some money out of my house on, have
right.
some money. And now I've got everybody calling me. It's driving me nuts.
Oh, yeah.
And it'll go this way for a couple of months. I hate it.
Yeah, I don't like spam calls either.
Yeah, ridiculous. All right. Anyway, let's get back to talking sports. All right. So you don't think that the men's baseball team will make it to Omaha?
I'm not 100% convinced they can do it. They're too inconsistent. Now, if they may breeze through the SEC tournament without a problem. But here's the other catch to that. Are you going to burn through your bullpen? Because we've run into this problem before. When we won the tournament in 21, we didn't have pitchers for the regional or super regional.
And Dave Van Horn has talked about
that. And now you lose Kohio Aloy to a hand injury. You're down a man, but Zach Stewart, Ryder Helfrich, dude, studs yesterday against the win against Tennessee. The question is, can that same team show up today against Texas?
Well, and that has been the season for the Razorbacks.
This is Dave. This is why I hate the SEC tournament so bad. Because if you're a lock for the postseason,
right,
and Arkansas is going to be in that conversation,
yeah, you don't want to win the tournament because you got.
You don't even want. If I'm Dave Van Horn, I don't even want to be there. Same with John Calipari in basketball. If you know you're a lock for the big dance, you ought to have the opportunity to pass up.
Rest your players. That's right.
But the argument is made because somebody gave me a very valid point. Think of the last regular season game and when the tournament actually starts. That's a long time.
It's a long time. That's right.
That's a long time.
You can lose your timing.
Yeah. So if you're even if you're a one and done, that's okay. But the problem is if you just keep winning and you're not trying to win, because Dave's not trying to win the SEC tournament.
Yeah.
You can't convince me he's trying to win it. Unless he absolutely has to. You get to that Sunday game, who are you going to have? Can the depth actually stand up to 4-5 days of games back to back to back, and then turn around, 5 days later and throw in a regional?
Yeah, if you've had a mediocre season, you want to win the tournament.
Yeah, so if you've got somebody like
Tennessee,
Mississippi State. Mississippi State's a good one. A few years ago, they just won the national championship.
Yeah.
Now they're not even 500 in conference.
Well, you got the same problem with Tennessee. They lost their their coach.
I don't think. You think Tony V did that much to that team?
I think so.
I don't know.
I think he had that kind of energy that a college player identifies and buys into.
What's his record now? But I don't think.
Well, they just the general manager of the Giants, they just gave him a 4-year extension
already.
Yeah.
What's their record right now?
Yeah, they're not great.
Why in the world? Oh,
They are sold on this guy.
How?
That's where it is. They're sold on.
How? I don't even see that. I can't. Why would you extend a guy in his first season and they're what? Are they 30 games in already? 10, 15, 30 games in already?
They've almost got, they're getting close to a third of the season.
Yeah. And you're going to extend a guy 4 years? What if he misses the playoffs? Or just tanks the second half of the season? Because isn't the All-Star break coming up?
Yeah, that's not until July.
Okay. I thought it was in June. But again, tell me the kind of sense that makes.
Man,
I don't know, but I'm not a big Tony V fan anyway.
I can't speak to professional sports anymore. I just don't understand.
It's not the same.
No,
it's not the same.
I don't understand. I want a starting pitcher. I only want him out there to go through the batting order one time.
Yeah, that is. I mean, is that a rule now, or is that just kind of the way they play the game now?
The way they play the game.
I think that's stupid.
Yeah,
I think it
is the way they play the game, though. So, anyways, we have to see what's going on. Mississippi is playing Oklahoma at noon today in the Super Regional.
Okay, so that's game one of the day.
Yeah. Well, game one is underway right now. In the bottom of the second, Texas is losing to Florida in Gainesville 1-0.
I forgot Hoover's double elimination, isn't it?
Well, this is not Hoover. I'm talking about Oklahoma City right now.
Oh, you're talking about softball.
Yeah.
Okay. I was like, wait, we're playing Texas at 3.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm trying to get over to the major leagues real fast here so I can talk about the Giants.
No, I just, you were asking me about the Hawks' chances getting to Omaha.
Yeah.
They're, like I said, they're just too inconsistent. My problem is, I mean, they've got the pitching has come on. They're tough defensively, although they're still making some mental mistakes. But they're just too streaky at the plate still.
They are streaky. There's no doubt about that.
And of course, everybody, well, did you see the Tennessee? Yes, I saw the Tennessee game yesterday. They weren't streaky at all. They were knocking bombs out of the park.
Let's see if they play that way today.
That's the key. And that has been Arkansas athletics for at least 20 years since I've been watching Razorback sports all over the place.
San Francisco is 20 wins, 30 losses right now.
20 wins and how many losses?
30. They're playing 400 ball. And
they extended a guy 4 years.
They're 11. They're 11 games already out of first place.
Okay, make that make sense. The math ain't math in here. Why would you extend a guy 4 years for being at 400?
Yeah, can I say? It is what it is. I just made mention to you. I don't understand Major League Baseball.
That's like taking the Jets or the who's it? Who's the
Raiders?
The Raiders or the team out of Ohio, not the Bengals. Who's the other one? The Browns.
Yeah.
See, they're irrelevant. I can't even remember their names.
Yeah.
That's like taking them and they're going 0-16, and you're giving the coach a 5-year extension.
Well, after the head coach that had been there for so long left, they've been in the wilderness.
Well, yeah.
They really have been.
I mean, now you could say the same thing. You could say the same thing about the Cowboys. I love my Cowboys to death, but Jerry needs to give it up.
Well, they don't. They've lost their identity. Used to be when you went to play the Cowboys, you knew it was going to be a very, very physical game.
Mm-hmm.
All right. That's not the way you look at the Cowboys anymore. It's can you score more points than your defense can give up?
Oh yeah.
I mean, that's what it comes.
That's
up
exactly
to
what
now.
that is. But did you hear the excuses teams are giving now?
Oh no, what is it?
It's the way the stadium's facing and the glare coming in from the south end zone.
Oh.
I'm going, okay, this is on the level of having the electrical grid outside of Levi Stadium and everybody tearing their ACLs.
Yeah.
The math ain't math in here.
Right.
All right. And I'm not the brightest crayon in the sea or the fastest turtle in the crayon box. Something's not adding up here.
That's pretty good, man.
That was smooth, wasn't it?
Yeah, you did a good job on that one. But yeah, it's the Cowboys helped themselves a little bit during the draft. but not enough to.
I'm worried about
make a
that guy
big
with the knee
difference.
problem, though.
Yeah. Well, they'll find out
if he stays healthy and his knee clears.
Then it was a genius move.
He's an Ed Reed level rusher.
Yeah.
But if that knee buckles and we wasted
He's
what?
done.
$50 million?
Yeah.
Something like that?
Yeah.
No,
you cannot foresee injuries. You just cannot foresee that.
Not well, unless you're the San Francisco 49ers, and then you just blame it on a power grid 400 yards. I read that story and I went, who came up with this?
Yeah, well.
Here's my thing. Here's my thing, though, is when in the world did professional sports become whatever it is today, where everybody's just whining about everything?
When they're spending as much money as they are on the players who are out on the field. I mean, you got so many rules to protect the quarterback that you can't really hurt the quarterback.
Man, you know what? And I was just talking about this with a buddy of mine. I miss the days when you can just lay a lick on the quarterback.
Yeah,
you can't do that now.
Take you back to the 70s. That's.
Well, I mean, even in the early 2000s, look at how you lay a lick, put him in the dirt.
Yeah.
Now you can't even touch him.
Well, and you can't. Look, if you're going to take a quarterback down and you wrap him up, you can't fall on top of him.
Which I think is, what's the point of tackle then?
They're going to flag you for that.
What are we playing, flag football now?
Yeah.
That's the thing. And that's like with NASCAR, with professional football, even down to the college level. Get rid of all the stupid rules. Just let them play. Let the boys race. Let them play.
Well, here's the key. They're trying to say, we're going to play a physical sport and we don't want you to get hurt. That you're playing a physical sport tells you that you're going to pay the price for it.
I mean, look, I know a 14-year-old boy playing baseball right now. He took a fastball. He took a hit to a baseball to the face.
Yeah.
And one to the rib cage, popped right back up and said, "I'm good to go, coach." Gets in the car and goes, "I hurt."
Yeah.
But he didn't cry on the field. And he took this, and I mean,
I'm going to tell you, I didn't cry on the field. My father took me out one time and we were just snagging ground balls.
I saw him take this hit from it came off a hit.
Yeah.
All right. He tried to get it with his glove. It tipped off the top of his glove and hit him straight in the orbital bone right here.
Yeah.
He sat there for a minute, shook it off, and went, "I'm good, and waved the coach off and got right back in the game. He gets in the car and he goes, "Ow, oh, this hurts." He took one to the rib cage, coughed a little bit, went right back in.
Yeah.
But you can't lay a lick on a quarterback.
Yeah, I understand that you want to get rid of late hits and things of that.
That's a little different.
But clotheslines and all of that, that's part of the game as far as I'm concerned.
I mean, what are we playing? Powder puff football now?
Yeah.
Anyway, but that's just me. But no,
it's just they're just putting so much money into these players that they can't take the chance of them being knocked out of the game. I mean, look, they're paying some of these guys $55 million a year, and they still get knocked out of the game. And you've got to put a second string in, and these quarterbacks are still getting their $55 million a year contract.
Oh yeah, they're guaranteed money.
Yeah,
best job in the NFL, backup quarterback. You know why? I don't know who the backups are.
Yeah,
I know Brandon Allen is one of them, but that's the only one I know.
All right, it's let's see, 12 minutes until 11, so we'll come back, talk more with Razorback Zach in a moment here on the Dave Elswick Show.
America is at a tipping point. To ensure we stay the land of the free and home of the brave, you need to be informed and engaged. That's why we're here. 101.1 The Answer, where Little Rock comes to talk.
The price of gold is surging to new highs. It's already topped $5,000 an ounce. The only question is, how much money will you make when gold hits $6,000 an ounce? Investors like you have made small fortunes off the run-up in precious metals, and not just with gold stocks or ETFs. Many have taken advantage of a little-known gold investment officially released by the U.S. government. Now you can too, when you get our free special report from veteran trader and investor Jim Woods. It's called Gold Wealth Boosters. This new report outlines amazing gold investments that have returned 12 to 26 times more than investing in gold bullion itself. Given the uncertainty in world markets, the investments outlined in Jim Woods' Gold Wealth Boosters report are crucial in 2026, and it's free. To get your free Gold Wealth Boosters report, log on to EagleGoldReport.com. EagleGoldReport.com. That's EagleGoldReport.com.
What if you could take 101.1 The Answer with you everywhere? You can. Download the 101.1 The Answer app and stay connected to the voices you trust, live and on demand. Wake up with Dave Elswick. Stay sharp with Doc Washburn. And hear from national voices like Chris DeGaulle, Scott Jennings, Hugh Hewitt, Larry Elder, and Mike Gallagher. Breaking news, bold opinions, local insight, national perspective, all in one place, all in your pocket, at work, in the car, on the go. If it matters to Arkansas and America, you'll hear it on 101.1 The Answer. Plus, stream us live anywhere. Catch up on podcasts and never miss a moment. Search 101.1 The Answer in your app store and download it today. 101.1 The Answer, where Little Rock comes to talk. The Secular Crew explains the Declaration to those who forgot.
It is very clear what the Declaration of Independence says and what the purpose of it was. It wasn't to read in a fairly benign way. It was to push back against the entire concept that the only rights you had came from a king.
Secular. Afternoons at 3 on 101.1 The Answer. We bring you the biggest news stories of the day. Not to tell you what to think, but to allow you to have the most information so you can make up your mind. 101.1 The Answer, where Little Rock comes to talk. The Dave Elswick Show continues now. 101.1 The Answer.
All right, 9 minutes left here on the Dave Elswick Show before we get to a 3-day weekend and get to Memorial Day weekend and on Monday. And I hope that, you fire up your barbecue because this is the weekend you're supposed to do that. But while you're having your hot dogs and having your brats, and I don't know if you can afford to buy a steak or not, but if you're buying a steak you put on the grill, remember a lot of people paid with their lives so that you have the freedom to do that.
Absolutely.
I want to keep that in everybody's mind. I saw they're doing something on Monday that I thought was exciting out at Arlington Cemetery. They're having a candlelight vigil.
Really?
Yeah. And there's going to
Are they going to televise it?
I hope so. There's going to be tens of thousands of people out in Arlington. That's going to be fantastic. That'd be very, very cool. If you've never been to Arlington, you need to get there.
Oh, yeah.
You really do. And you need to get to the top of the hill and go to Robert E. Lee's old home, because a lot of people don't know this, but Robert E. Lee donated the land so that we could have Arlington. So
now that was in not response, but
what, Civil War?
Yeah, Civil War.
Yeah, 1800s.
Yeah,
it was done. I mean, that's when he did it. I mean,
somebody told me that
he was an American first.
Yeah,
right?
somebody told me that Arlington was at capacity, and I'm like, there's no way.
No. They're still burying people there.
Yeah,
it's a working cemetery.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, typically when you go and you visit, as you're driving through Arlington, you'll go by a couple of funerals where they're interring somebody.
Yeah, there's at even here locally, there's a cemetery that kind of backs up to my house, and And like one day I saw 4 different military funerals out there. They had the honor guard. They had the salute, everything.
Had you guys out there playing
Mhm.
taps? Most of the bugle players don't play taps anymore. There's a tape
Yeah.
that is in the horn that plays. All right. That's because you don't, when you're burying somebody, you don't want to hit a sour note.
No.
It's that simple. And then they give you 21 gun salute and the whole 9 yards. I mean, if you're a veteran, you're due that.
Yep.
You're due that. I won't ask for it. All I'll ask for is a flag.
Same.
And have that presented to my family.
Yep. Same.
That I served. My father didn't get a flag when he passed away, and I always thought he should have because he was at the Battle of the Bulge with Patton.
Really?
Yeah, he fought
Nice.
with Patton. So I thought he should have gotten a flag. They should have covered his coffin. They didn't. But that's changed now.
Oh, yeah.
It really has. Burial ceremonies and stuff have changed. So what's going on now? When we look at football, you got to wait till fall.
Yep. Got to wait till September 5th.
Okay. But this is the players. They have things they're supposed to be doing.
Yeah. Right now, you're kind of in that strength and conditioning phase.
Yeah.
You're not really in the fall in summer ball yet. You're kind of in off-season workouts, which means you can get together. I think the regulation is you can get together, but you can't officially get together. So you're going to have teams players get together, run, different plays or
throw balls,
or stay loose or whatever.
Run up and down the steps.
Yeah. But summer workouts is where you're at right now. The coaching staff's still out recruiting. They're still evaluating. We've got a long way to go before I'm anywhere confident about this football team.
So when do they meet again to get ready for the season?
I believe late July. I think it's just after SEC Media Days in late July. I think August 1st is when they report.
All right.
But like I said, all summer long, you're going to see hype videos of them getting, summer workouts, lifting and things like that, because they'll lift all summer long.
Oh, well, there's guys that they're going to want to try to put muscle on.
Yeah.
If you're a freshman, you're going to be playing against men.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I can only imagine what Braylon Russell was feeling like last year because I saw him play at down here in high school.
Uh-huh.
He was tough. He got up there. I think that first game scared the crap out of him. Well, it would. Would it not intimidate you as a true freshman?
It's a big step forward when you go from high school to college, and it is a light year step when you go from college to pro.
Oh, yeah. Because the rules are so different. That's why I'm a big proponent of, look, if you're going to play in college and you're going to the pros, make the rules the same. So the guys coming out of
that.
Because if you're coming out of college, you're going to want to adapt to the NFL. And if you're going to pay the players already, why not make the rules the same?
And I'm like President Trump. Go back and let's do regular kickoffs again.
Yes, please, for the love of everything football, get rid of whatever this is now.
Yeah, I don't like what they're doing right now.
And I get it. You're trying to protect the players, but you're playing a physical sport. Your risk is part of the game. If you're going to suit up,
that's exactly right. Getting hit and hit back to yesterday is part of the game.
Getting your bell rung is part of the learning process.
And you can't tell me they can't come up scientifically with some way of developing the helmet to knock down on concussions.
Well, they have. And if you see it's almost like a little pentagon at the very top.
Yeah.
Arkansas was the first school to actually implement that helmet. Brett Bielema was the one that created that.
Really?
Yeah. Arkansas is credited for that helmet, that style of helmet now.
That's cool.
That you see across professional, college and professional. But one real note, because I haven't been here in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
The tennis program. It got cut.
They brought
it back because the fans spoke.
Yeah.
$2.5 million in less than 48 hours, and then another $5 million in pledges for the next 2 or 3 years.
There you go.
100-year. I'm gonna be nice.
All right. Well,
100-year check needs to pull his head out of his nether regions.
Well, he's looking at the reality of how much it costs to field a team.
Yeah, but what are we going to? We have to replace it with something to make up that $2 million difference. What are we going to do? Equestrian sports? Come on, now we're not Texas A&M.
Well,
I mean, they're down there toting right now. We're equestrian national champions. Big whoop.
Who cares? We're going to take a break until I see you again on Tuesday morning at 7:00. Razorback, thanks so much.
It's always fun, Dave.
Always fun. Go, Lady Hogs. We want you to win. All right. I'll see you on the radio on Tuesday.